midway through.
Good morning. At this time, I'd like to call the Manatee Legislative Delegation meeting to order. If we could all stand for the pledge, I'll lead us in the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We're going to do a quick roll call. Senator Joyner, Senator Galvano,
Here.
Representative Rouson, Representative Boyd.
Here.
We have a quorum that is present. We're going to move right into the local bill presentations first, and then we'll get to all of the public folks that have put in a packet. So I'm going to roll right into the local bill presentation for Manatee County. The mic is over here and the podium is over here, so any speakers, you're going to come to this podium and that mic should be hot, and we'll go from there. So Manatee County, you are recognized to present your local bill.
Thank you, Representative Steube. This is going to be very short and sweet. We want to call your attention to an amendment that we're requesting to our local bill that created the Manatee County utility system. With your approval, the change we're seeking will extend lien authority to our utility system as a means to collect outstanding water accounts. Currently, the utility system has no lien ability, and unpaid accounts are absorbed by the system and passed along to prompt paying customers in the form of higher rates. The requested change before you would provide Manatee County utility system with a valuable tool to collect on outstanding accounts.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members, do you have any questions?
No, I've seen it. Thank you.
Seeing no questions, is there any objection to the local bill? Seeing no objection, we will accept your local bill, and thank you for your presentation today.
Thank you.
It all won't be that easy.
All right, next on the agenda, we have City of Holmes Beach. You are recognized.
Good morning. I'm Patricia Petroff, the City Attorney for the City of Holmes Beach. The local bill the city is requesting is to add to the city boundary, and the addition of lands would be submerged lands adjacent to its Grassy Point Preserve, which is its premier park. The purpose of the local bill is to provide some regulatory authority for our police department, for our police boat, to allow for regulation of that submerged land area adjacent to that park. Happy to answer any questions. You have a survey. For those of you, if you go over State Road 64 bridge and look to the left, the park area is the submerged lands, and it has a lot of wetlands and grasses and marine resources, and so we're very concerned if that park becomes popular that those submerged lands will need more protection.
Thank you. Members, do you have any questions?
I don't.
Is there any debate? Seeing none, is there any objection to adopt the local bill for the City of Holmes Beach? Seeing no objection, we'll adopt the local bill for the City of Holmes Beach, and we'll move that forward in the legislative process. Thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have the Sarasota Manatee Airport Authority. You are recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Rick Piccolo, the President and CEO of the airport. I have Bob Mattingly and Chief Quinn from the airport as well here. There was a letter sent to you on November 3rd, because this is a little bit of a legalese issue and one that I'll try to explain very quickly, but the airport straddles the county line. We have our own fire department under FAA regulation, but it is strictly for aircraft rescue and firefighting, not for structural, and receive structural support from all the surrounding departments through mutual aid agreements. In Manatee County, the airside and landside portions are bounded by US 41 on the west, Talavas Road on the north, and 15th Street on the east. The areas fronting the western portion are in Cedar Hammocks Fire District. The eastern non-aviation lands are in southern Manatee, but there's an area inside the fence line, the aviation area, that's actually an enclave area that isn't inside any of the fire district's present boundaries. These airfield lands don't allow us to act as having authority, having jurisdiction for fire prevention code enforcement purposes. And on September 9th, the state fire marshal did issue a definition of the fire service provider for SRQ that allows us to be eligible to be designated by Manatee County as the authority having jurisdiction. And we're working with Manatee County government to secure that authority through an interlocal agreement. But this may take a couple of months, and we did not know if any technical issues may come up that would prevent the Board of Manatee County Commissioners from approving it, despite the best intentions of both parties. So we're putting together a backup plan, and this is our backup plan, in the form of local legislation addressing this gap in the fire marshal coverage. We're requesting the legislature just grant us a placeholder status for legislation that we're hoping will not be needed, that we'll work it out with Manatee County. And we're asking to add a section to Chapter 2014-309 authorizing the airport authority to enforce Florida fire prevention codes within that enclave area, which was within the boundaries of the air side of the airport that is in Manatee County. If you're inclined to give our request, we'll commit to making all the preliminary steps, publishing timely notice, drafting of language to enable the legislation to move forward, but only if necessary. I'm hopeful that we'll be able to work this out through Manatee County and won't even need it. And I'm happy to answer any questions or have our people answer any questions you have.
All right, thank you for your presentation, members. Are there any questions? Is there any debate?
Yeah, I have a question. So we're approving a bill yet to be drafted?
Yes, your language that would have to be drafted yet that would allow us to enforce the fire prevention code.
You know, I think we're going to have to actually see some language before we can take
That's fine.
action.
That's fine, and as I said, I'm hopeful that the language we work out with Manatee County won't make the bill necessary.
Okay, and we can convene at another time, even in Tallahassee if necessary, but I
Certainly.
just can't approve something that's yet to be written.
Fully understand.
So, this isn't Washington.
Well, there was language that was provided, but you're saying that's not the final?
Correct.
Okay, well, why don't we do this? We'll just table it at this point, and then when you guys get us the language, we can either have another delegation meeting down here, or if we're all in Tallahassee, we could do it in Tallahassee.
Okay.
But I'd prefer to have it down here so that the citizens in Manatee can come and have comment.
Certainly, and we'll be also presenting at the Sarasota delegation meeting in about a month, and I'll make sure that hopefully we have the language by then.
Yeah, go ahead. Representative Boyd, you recognize?
Thank you, Chairman. And perhaps if you could do that before that, it might be the better forum to get it done quickly, because there is a timeline obviously involved, and if we wait too long, it may be hard to accomplish it this year in Tallahassee. So maybe Manatee County will remember how easy their morning went and work with you as well.
All right. Will do.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, next on the list, we have Cedar Hammock Fire District for a local bill presentation. You're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. This bill is a result of some changes and some updates that need to be done over at the fire district's charter. In 2000, as you may recall, we codified all the special acts of the fire districts in Manatee County. Since then, we've had 2 subsequent amendments to the special acts and 3 referendums. And so if you look at the charter now and try to, as a citizen or a district taxpayer, try to determine what the provisions are of the charter, you have to look to 3 different special acts, as well as a referendum that's not required to be in the charter. But this bill would codify all of the special acts. It would update the impact fee language. It would remove some language that was in there from the merger between the Whitfield Fire District and the Cedar Hammock Fire District that was in there as a transition from the merger of the 2 districts. And then it would also incorporate into the special act the 2002 and 2006 voter-approved referendums for ad valorem taxation and the increase in the impact fees to pay for new construction. We also decided to take out of the special act the original list for non-ad valorem assessments of each individual parcel. Under Chapter 191, those are increased by the personal income growth assessment each year. So if you look at your tax bill, it'll say one thing. If you look at the special act from 15 years ago, it says something else, and there's a disparity. What we're doing now is putting all the information online. And this bill just kind of cleans up their charter and puts it all in a single document for people, for ease of use and for people to be able to understand what the district does.
So it's not really changing their ad valorem taxing authority, it's just restructuring the language?
It's codifying it. It actually is not anywhere in their charter today. If you look through the original codified special act in 2000, the 2007 bill, which was the merger between the Whitfield district and the Cedar Hammock district, as well as the 2004 referendum where we codified in their special act about the impact fee increase for new construction. Never during that time was it ever put into their charter that they had referendum authority. The state law doesn't require it. They require you to have a referendum on it. We have a referendum. We have a copy of the referendum and the results of that referendum, but nobody actually put it in the charter. So if you pulled it up online and on the website of the Cedar Hammock Fire District, you can look at it and you say, well, where's their authority? And you just have to have the knowledge that in 2002 it was on the ballot and was approved by the voters. And that's why it shows up on your tax bill every year. So I think that really, we put in the year it was approved, we put the level it was approved at in the charter, and that way if somebody brings up this document, they can see basically the entire operating arrangement of the district. I think you'll see this when we decided to codify all the special acts in Chapter 189 and 191, the General Special Districts Act and the Fire Control District Act. It was a deadline of 2004. In Manatee County, we did them all in 2000, but throughout the state, we did them through 2004. Nothing was ever conceived or discussed on what we would do after the fact, once you start making subsequent amendments to the codified special act. So we're kind of back where we were 20 plus years ago, where you've got the original charter and then subsequent amendments, and in order to know the exact powers and duties of any district statewide, you've got to read all of those together, and most citizens going to have a real tough time in trying to accomplish that. So that's basically what this bill is a codification of 3 referendums and 2 subsequent charter amendments after the original codified act in 2000.
Okay, members, do you have any other questions? Is there any debate? Seeing none, is there any objection to the adoption of the local bill for the Manatee Legislative Delegation? Seeing no objection, we will adopt the local bill for Cedar Hammock Fire District. Thank you. That
Thank you, Mr.
completes.
Chairman.
Mr. Chair, wait a minute, I'm trying to figure this out. So when did the people get to speak on any one of the 4 bills? I didn't hear anywhere. I mean, I got issued definitely. Oh man, I'll let y'all go last. And I don't mean to be out of line, but I was waiting for the part where you said the people come in for each bill. You didn't even do that part. I'm not trying to shoot you down, but
Okay, well,
but
if you have something specific that you want to address on any one of these bills, then you can put a card in and.
you didn't say that.
Well, I'm saying it now. So if you want to make a comment on any of these bills, you're welcome to address that podium right now.
I'm trying to make it short.
And you've got 3 minutes.
Oh, believe me, I'm trying to make it shorter than that. Okay. First of all, obviously, I already spoke with you personally already about the matter. But man, I'm dealing with it publicly, okay? You got 4 bills here, especially this last one, trying to change the assessment or not. No, wait a minute. People need to look over that. Is it going to be a new assessment? Is it going to be something added to ad valorem? Codifying what? What are you trying to say here? I can't. The people need to see that. Obviously, you don't have a copy of the bill here. They can't see that. I have issue with that. The bill that you tabled, okay? He said he's trying to work it out, and it's a backup. As I understand, legislature doesn't get involved. If locals can get their business done, y'all let them, but you don't get involved with a local bill until you see that they cannot come to a resolution. Why would now you waste your time in the legislative process with a backup plan if they don't get that done? I'm talking about what? The airport authorities bill. Now, the first, number 1 and 2, again, on the first bill, no detail was given by the speaker as to specifically in detail what that bill does, as though y'all already knew what it does, and that's it. What if nobody here knew? What if the public did not know, and they need more detail, and they don't have it before them to see it? So I have an issue with that one, which obviously I think is something wrong. But here at this point, all 4 of these, obviously, I would vote down because, no. The public doesn't have, when has the public seen it?
All right, thank you, Mr. Pitts. First of all these local bills were required to submitted to our office on Monday was the deadline, and if you read all the public that went out to the public as it relates to these local bills, any person in the community could have requested copies of those local bills from our office. Second, this goes through an entire committee process in the legislature. This is just the infancy step. We get approved at the local level, and then it's going to go through the process in the legislature. It will go through the committee process, and it will then be filed once the delegation has approved it, and it will be there for all to see on the website with the Florida House and the Senate. So at this local step, you could have requested from our local office that information. So we're going to move forward now we've completed the local bill section, and we're going to move to everybody that submitted information to our office. And the first up is a welcome and presentation by the University of South Florida, Sarasota, Manatee. You're recognized.
Thank you, Chair Steube. I'd like to initially welcome the Manatee County Legislative Delegation, my fellow community leaders, and all of our guests today to the University of South Florida, Sarasota, Manatee. My name is Sandra Stone. I'm the new Regional Chancellor, and I'm completing my second week of work, so this is great. We're really happy to host you here on our beautiful Bayside campus, and hope you enjoy your time here. As Senator Galvano and Representative Boyd both know, since our institution is in their districts, although we have a Sarasota address and were previously located on New College campus since 1975, we are actually in Manatee County and have been here as of 2006 with the opening of this wonderful academic building. On behalf of the USF Board of Trustees and President Ginshaft, our campus board, students, faculty, and staff, I'd like to thank you for your continued support of the USF system. This legislative session, the University of South Florida system will be focusing on the following funding priorities. The Florida Center for Cybersecurity at USF Tampa, the Florida Consortium of Metropolitan Research Universities, which will be a collaborative effort with the University of South Florida, the University of Central Florida, and Florida International University, the USF Health Heart Institute, USF St. Petersburg College of Business, and more specifically for our campus, the USF-Sarasota Manatee STEM programs that we would like to continue to expand, shared resources with New College for Joint Campus Police Extension Addition, supported for funding for the USF-SM Center for Partnership for Arts Integrated Teaching to match our Community Foundation grants, and support funding for Small Business Development Center for Sarasota and Manatee counties. I look forward to meeting and working with each of you in my new role as Regional Chancellor, and through your continued leadership, I know we can sustain and expand access for our shared constituents in this community to affordable higher education for the future success of our region and the state of Florida. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there any questions for Chancellor Stone? Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Chairman. I don't have a question, but as kind of your representative, you mentioned you're in our district. We welcome you. We're glad you're here, Chancellor, and look forward to big things. And it's a great campus, great facility, great institution. And I know as we talked earlier in the week with your collaboration with the others in the area, from an higher education standpoint, you're going to do a great job, and you're a real resource to us. So thank you for being here.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
And thanks for hosting us. We
You're
appreciate
welcome.
it. Yeah. All right, next up is Manatee County, and then on deck we have the Sarasota Manatee Metropolitan Planning Organization. Commissioner Bustle, you are recognized.
Well, good morning again, Chairman Steube and honorable members of the the Manatee County Legislative Delegation. On behalf of the Manatee County Commission, I'd like to congratulate Senator Galvano and Representative Boyd on your recent appointments to key leadership positions in the Senate and the House. You represent Manatee County well, and you're carrying on a proud tradition of strong leadership from our area. I'd also like to offer a special thanks to Representative Steube for your outstanding efforts this year toward the Diverging Diamond project at University and I-75. Your perseverance paid off and will result in a safer road network for the entire region, so thank you very much for that. I'm not going to go over our entire list of legislative priorities. We provided those to you, but I would like to call your attention to topics that are especially important to the Manatee County Commission. I'll begin asking for your continued assistance and dedication to making Port Manatee an economic engine for the area. This year, we are seeking state assistance for port infrastructure improvements that will help our port better serve current and new tenants. We also ask for your continued efforts to correct the flawed billing system of the Department of Juvenile Justice. For too long, counties have been required to pay for detention costs that were the state's responsibility. Progress has been made during recent sessions, but work remains to ensure local government is not shouldering most of the burden. We ask for your help in solving the serious dilemma of health care for uninsured and underinsured Floridians. An estimated 3.5 million are without health care insurance in our state, creating a huge burden on state and local finances. We urge you to consider alternative funding areas that will make health insurance affordable and accessible for those who need it most. Next, I'd urge each of you to work with federal officials to reduce unnecessary regulations that prevent the use of golf carts on sidewalks adjacent to federal highways. The County Commission has a process to allow neighborhoods to use golf carts near local streets, but federal restrictions, in fact the federal code, prevent us from extending these privileges on sidewalks adjacent to federal highways. Thank you again to each of you for always welcoming our feedback and for working with us on the local level to advance the interests of people who live, work, and do business in Manatee County. And I have with me Carrie Roth, our political consultant in Tallahassee, and Nick Azera, if you have any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Does any member have any questions? Seeing no questions, thank you for coming here today.
And shall I just stay on for?
Yeah, you just roll into the Sarasota Manatee Metropolitan Planning Organization. You are recognized.
I hope there's going to be somebody besides me talking here this morning. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to you this morning now as chairman of the Sarasota Manatee Metropolitan Planning Organization. The Sarasota Manatee MPO is the regional transportation planning entity for Sarasota and Manatee counties. MPOs are established by state and federal laws to provide a process for local governments within the region to coordinate with the Florida Department of Transportation, FDOT, and the Federal Highway Administration, or FHWA, and the Federal Transit Administration. The MPO process is continuing, cooperative, and comprehensive, and includes legislative review and approval of the FDOT work program each year. The legislative priorities for 2015 will be considered for adoption by the MPO board in December and are included in the material that we provided to you for this meeting. We'll hope you'll support legislation that expands revenue options for funding transportation, and that you will work to restore and protect transportation trust funds. Innovative alternative forms of transportation and multimodal improvements are increasingly important and also worthy of your support. And your ongoing support of Port Manatee and our regional coordination efforts with other MPOs in the Tampa Bay area is also appreciated. My most important message today is to recognize you all for your support of our transportation system. I especially want to applaud you and thank you for your recent efforts to fund the I-75 at University Parkway Interchange Project. There are many more transportation needs in our region, and without a doubt there will be more funding challenges ahead. Your recognition of the importance of transportation in Florida's economy is appreciated. Thank you again for your support of transportation and your service to the residents of our region. I have with me Mike Howe and Dave Hutchinson. And Mike is the executive director of our MPO, and Dave is his assistant.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
No, thank you.
Representative Rouson, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, and I don't have a question per se. I did want to comment on your comments earlier about Port Manatee, and I want to thank you for the work that Manatee County is doing. I've had the occasion to visit that port twice in the last couple of months and meet with landowners of the 5,000 acres surrounding it, and it's quite a jewel here in Manatee County, and I look forward to working with you and the county commissioner and hopefully Senator Galvano on issues that affect that port. I'll be a part of a delegation going to Cuba for a second time on January 22nd, and one of the stops is Port Mariel. As some folks may not know, but the port of Manatee is the closest port to Cuba, and is best positioned for economic development and jobs and other things if certain things happen on the federal and state level. So I want to thank you and let you know that I'm very concerned about what happens there at the port.
Thank you very much for your interest. May I mention that I also have with my colleague Vanessa Baugh in attendance this morning, and Betsy Benak, two of my colleagues on the county commission. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you and welcome, commissioners. Thank you for coming here today. All right, next up we have the City of Holmes Beach, Anna Marie Island, Mayor Sue Lynn, and Holmes Beach Commissioner Gene Peelen.
Unless Sue Lynn is here, I'm not sure why I was on this one.
Okay.
And I know she is ill, so I suspect we can just skip this.
Okay. All right, Town of Longboat Key. You were recognized.
Good morning, Chairman Steube and members of the delegation. I have to lower this. My name is Pat Zuns, and I'm a commissioner of Longboat Key. Mayor Brown and Vice Mayor Duncan had to be out of town today. On behalf of Longboat Key, I want to first thank each of you for supporting our bill last year that allowed us to keep our density referendum in effect. You all worked on our behalf to introduce and advance this bill through the House and the Senate and ultimately to the governor for signature. The bill was very important to our town, and we thank Representative Boyd for his sponsorship and the co-sponsorship of others and for your support. I know you have a copy of our 2015 legislative priorities, but there are a couple of items I would like to raise. Please help us by supporting local community control over local revenues. Governments closest to the people can react best to their needs. Use of revenues from local business tax receipts and communication service taxes help us operate the important town services. Please help us maintain these revenue sources. As you know, Longboat Key is a barrier island where the economy is highly dependent on healthy beaches. Please support continued funding for beach nourishment. Healthy beaches are a key state-wide asset that deserve continued state attention. We also believe it would be very beneficial for the state of Florida to begin taking a lead role in planning for sea level rise and for providing some useful resources for local communities who are on the front lines of this issue. If sea level rise occurs at levels predicted by the scientists, much of Florida's population will be affected. While some state universities have begun to show leadership, please use your influence to place the state in the lead, coordinating a role in this planning. It's very important. Finally, I want to thank you again for your help with our bill last year and for the work you do on behalf of all of us.
Thank you, Commissioner. Are there any questions for Commissioner? All right, seeing none, thank you very much. Manasota League of Cities.
So I'm Jean Peelen, Commissioner in Holmes Beach, and in the absence of Jack Duncan, I am representing the Manasota League of Cities priorities here. We have limited them to 5 or 6, depending on how you count, and I want to make it clear that we had many more, but we really felt it was important to key in on the things we thought were the most critical for Manasota League area. The first is we support increased funding for community development block grant programs. As you know, these grants are not categorical, and they differ greatly from categorical grants in that we have more discretion at the state and local level as to how they're used. Of course, these funds are most important for our urban areas such as Bradenton and Sarasota. Local government revenue, and this is where the counting comes in. There are 2 sources of local revenue that are critical to all of the cities, and one is the communication services tax, and the other is the local business tax. I'm praying you won't ask me any technical questions about either of those. I am well aware, however, that the communication services tax revenue has been falling anyway because of bundling of services. So we're already hurting on that, so we respectfully ask that there be no further or no cuts in either of these sources of revenue for localities. Mental health initiatives. We support mental health program funding. We support legislation that would plan and adequately fund basic mental health facilities and programs in Florida, including additional psychiatric beds. While most psychiatric hospitals were closed in the mid-'60s for all good reasons then, through the '90s, adequate funding of replacement community mental health did not occur, with federal and state mental health program funding being dramatically reduced in the 1980s and more recently in the Great Recession. As psychiatric hospitals were being reduced, jail and prison cells were dramatically expanded by over 200%. It's estimated that over 20% of our jails and prisons are serving as de facto psychiatric hospitals without treatment capability. And over 30% of our chronic homeless population is suffering from severe mental health problems, including schizophrenia, manic depressive disorder, severe depression aggravated by substance abuse. The lack of the beds, mental health beds, and community mental health program funding has become a critical problem, placing costly pressures on our jails, hospitals, police, EMS, and our urban centers. As such, the lack of mental health treatment options for individuals, families, hospitals, courts, and communities is fiscally and socially irresponsible, resulting in an increasing number of well-documented human and community tragedies across our country. We support public pensions. We support legislation that protects home rule power to set and fund municipal employee benefit levels and specifically provides comprehensive pension reform, disability presumption reform, and a mechanism for municipalities to revoke their election to participate in the Florida retirement system. The Manasota League of Cities also supports legislation that provides flexibility in the use of insurance premium taxes as currently interpreted by the Department of Management Services. And finally, there's the issue of sober homes. This is a relatively new, I believe it was addressed last year for the first time. It's a new but critical issue. The growth of sober homes in the state of Florida, if it continues unregulated on its path, will severely impact tourism. Sober homes serve a purpose. They are a halfway house in between rehabilitation, live-in programs, and full life. However, they are currently being begun by entrepreneurs with no particular training, with no regulation. The state does not regulate these homes in any way. What's happening is that homes are being opened up next to churches, next to schools, next to bars, with predictable results. In the areas where they are, crime increases, homelessness increases. It's a serious problem. There are cities around the state who now have hundreds of sober homes in their territory, so you're going to be hearing more about it for sure. One entrepreneur has bought up a whole series of foreclosures and turned every one of them into sober homes. And what we are being told right now is that we can't regulate them because to regulate them would run afoul of the Federal Americans with Disabilities Act, and that alcoholism, drug addiction are considered disabilities. So there's an issue here that has to be resolved, and we really need the state to step in and take a look at it and the effect on the state. So that's it. Any non-technical questions?
Thank you, Commissioner. Members, is there any questions?
I have a question.
Representative Rouson, you're recognized.
Thank you very much. And didn't the legislature just this past session pass a law that dealt with some regulation of sober homes?
I
seem to remember
believe so.
something. Okay. What is your fear of sober people living in your community?
I'm delighted to have sober people living in my community. And here, my fear is that these are not truly sober homes set out for the good of people. They just invite people to come in, take their money. There's no treatment programs. There's no connection with. Now there are, really good sober homes, and they're usually connected with a mental health facility, and they don't offer, but they can refer people to the programs. The ones that I'm talking about are the ones that are just started by people wanting to make money. And so they are offering nothing. They're offering a boarding house. basically.
Representative Boyd, you're recognized for a question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just because I'm the only non-attorney on the board, so the technical issue may stump me as well. Your belief is that the cities don't have the ability through zoning and zoning regulations to control some of this?
Correct. And what we've been told, and this came up, this is a Florida League of Cities issue also, what came up is the Americans with Disabilities Act, that a couple of cities, they said, who have attempted to regulate it have been hit with suits under the Americans with Disabilities Act.
Mr. Chairman, and I don't want to belabor it. We can certainly look into it, but if it's, as the Senator just mentioned, if it's a for-profit organization and it's going into a neighborhood and there's zoning attendant to that neighborhood, whatever it is, RS1 or 2 or whatever the classification may be, it just seems to me that the city would certainly, all due respect to federal law and American with Disabilities, I understand that, but it just seems there might be some mechanism, but we can look at it.
Thank you.
Don't mean to be difficult. That's a good question as to whose jurisdiction that might be.
Yes, I agree.
All right, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Next up, State College of Florida. Madam President, you're recognized.
Good morning, Mr. Chair,
Morning.
delegates. Thank you to USF for hosting this event, and welcome, Dr. Stone. Congratulations, Senator Galvano and Representative Boyd, on your appointments to important leadership positions this year. Your alma mater is proud of you and honored to say that you started your higher education journey with us. I'd like to thank the entire delegation for the legislation that you worked so hard to pass last year, allowing deserving veterans to access in-state tuition. The benefit has a major impact on our students, their access, and their success. With more than 400 veteran students, and a number that's growing every day, we are very proud to have received our 5th consecutive year designation as a military-friendly college. Earlier this week, on Veterans Day, 2 breakfasts were held to raise money. I'm proud to say that the money that was raised was enough when matched by our foundation to establish a veteran scholarship program. It's been fully endowed. The fund will continue the work of removing financial barriers that our students encounter. Again, thank you. I'd also like to express our sincere gratitude and appreciation for securing the first part of the funding for our Learning Resource Center. Nothing creates excitement on a college campus like the prospect of construction. Already we have focus groups where students are telling us what they think would be the ideal learning center, and we are very near to selecting the architecture firm that we'll be working with for design. With your help to secure the second part of the funding, a year from now, we'll be constructing that building that has been the top facility priority for the State College since 2007. You have before you a chart that I'm sure looks very familiar. SCF still seeks your help to achieve the level of state funding that is consistent with other state colleges that are like us in size and like us in program mix. For a moment, though, I'd like to talk about some of the things that SCF is doing with the resources that we have to demonstrate the good investment that SCF is of taxpayer dollars. The total annual economic impact of SCF on our community is greater than $300 million and represents about an 8% rate of return to our taxpayers. We're starting 3 new 2-year workforce programs next year that will have embedded industry certifications, risk management, cybersecurity, and mobile device software design. All have been developed in conjunction with our industry partners who have provided financial support, collaboration on curriculum development, internships, and guaranteed jobs for our graduates. With the help of the fundraising efforts of our foundation and our local business, we are moving forward to positively impact the economic development in our region. We ask for the help of the state now to be our partner as well, so we can do even more to meet the needs of our students and our employers. Student engagement is the key to student persistence, student success, and graduation. To that end, this morning, I had the joy of wishing our women's volleyball team off as they leave to head to Wyoming to compete in the National Junior College Volleyball Championship representing the state of Florida. Just as important, however, our volleyball team is also ranked among the top academic teams in the state of Florida. And truly, they are student athletes. Our Model UN team leaves this weekend to defend their 4-time streak of winning best overall position paper in the southeastern region, competing against 50 colleges and universities, and we come out on top. We have more students participating in those programs now than we have ever had before, and that's attributed to our faculty, who are working very hard to make sure that that engagement with students is taking place. Our Brain Bowl team competes this weekend in the second state tournament. In the first tournament, competing against 40 other teams, we took 2nd, 3rd, and 5th. I told them earlier this week, I want a clean sweep 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Nothing is more nerdy than a bunch of presidents standing around talking trash about our Brain Bowl teams. But I will be part of that competition and that conversation any day. The Performing Arts program at SCF is the fastest growing program, or one of the fastest growing programs we have, approaching 500 students who participate. The quality of the program is because of the faculty and the opportunities that students have to participate when they're at the college and when they transfer. Just last week, our students were selected by Susan Boyle to perform with her in her national tour at Van Wezel. What an honor. Over the last 3 years, our music students have won 50% or more of every music award that was issued by the state college system. Engagement matters. All of these students, our veterans included, are among the top academic performers at SCF. With your support, we can provide even more of those opportunities for student engagement, and we can provide the academic support services that will improve our advisor-to-student ratio from 1,100 to 1 to a level that is guaranteed to impact student success. So in conclusion, 2 things. We're asking for your help to complete our library learning center and bring that to the finish line, and to give our students the same level of opportunity that students in state colleges just like us have available to them. So 57 years, 43,000 graduates, we're still the one. Thank you for your time, and thank you for your support.
Thank you, Madam President, and thank you for everything that the State College does for veterans. As a veteran, obviously, I appreciate all the work that you've done for that. Members, you guys have any questions? Representative Rouson, you're recognized.
Thank you very much. And Doctor, thank you so much for this morning. But also thank you for your Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. Day of Service. Last year, because of the participation of State College of Florida, over 5,000 people were engaged in over 200 different public service projects across the Bay Area. And I particularly want to thank Senator Galvano and Senator Chris Smith for what they did to assist in the funding of that this year. Because of what Senator Smith did, we were able to expand it to Broward Community College. So we now have 4 community colleges challenging, and as you say, engagement matters. Engaging the community in public service on the King Day of Service. And I'm very proud that State College of Florida carries the banner for Manatee County. Thank you for your staff and your students that are involved in that project.
Well, thank you. It's our honor to be there, and we're very proud this year to be able to expand that outreach to the Newtown area of Sarasota.
Thank you. All right, thank you very much. Next, we have New College of Florida, Dr. Don O'Shea. You're not Dr. Don O'Shea. You're recognized.
I don't look like Dr. Don O'Shea
No, not
at all. Good morning. I'm Steve Miles. I'm the Provost and Vice President for Academic Affairs at New College, and I'm joined at the podium by John Martin, who is our Vice President for Finance and Administration. President O'Shea sends his regrets. He has been called away on a family matter in Massachusetts. I know that he would want me to convey on his behalf our appreciation for all the work of the delegation and the support for New College over the years. New College is very proud of the recognition that we've received nationally for our distinctive role as a liberal arts college. We are the honors college for the state system of Florida. But we're equally proud of the work that we've been able to do this year and last when developing a consortium of our regional partners. The consortium of colleges on the Cultural Coast consists of New College, also USF-Sarasota Manatee, State College of Florida, Ringling College of Art and Design, and Florida State University, particularly with respect to the Sarasota operations, and Eckerd College. With respect to the Brain Bowl, I can only say that New College is happy to participate in Brain Bowl, but on Sunday I invite you to an athletic competition between New College and the Ringling College of Art and Design students. This is our Turkey Bowl. It's become quite a tense rivalry between the two institutions. The president of the losing team has to suffer a form of indignity this year. I think his car gets soaped or in some way defaced. But the benefits, all this goes to charity, and so we hope that you would come out for that. The consortium of colleges on the Cultural Coast promotes efficiency and enhances the impact of our programs for students and the community. I'd like to call your attention to two of our proposals for this year and for our operating budgets. These are two proposals that have been approved by the Florida Board of Governors. The first, it was already mentioned by Chancellor Stone. This is a shared services agreement or enhancement of the agreement between USF-Sarasota Manatee and New College on our police services. We want to add 6 positions and expand the technical resources of the police so that we can have at least minimal coverage on our campuses. We really have less than other campuses, and given the needs of security, we feel we really need to enhance that. The second proposal is with Florida State University, primarily through the Ringling College, but also with their Oslo Conservatory for actor training. This is with New College. It will provide for shared positions that will expand their graduate programs in museum education and museum studies. It will provide instruction for New College students, also creating a 3+2 arts administration program with FSU, and will increase programming and involvement within the community. We view the campus with New College, the shared campus of New College and FSU, as really being the corner for the developing arts and education corridor. So we see this as having an economic impact. In terms of a local initiative, last year we received special funding to establish our Center for Engagement and Opportunity, named by our student's CEO. This is a career services center. It has new staffing, and it's doing a remarkable job. We have, in years past, our approach to career services has been a bit passive. We've had the services, but we've just encouraged students to take advantage of it. We've adopted a much more aggressive approach, and now with the new staff have been able to host numerous fairs. We've increased internships by 94%, and we think that this is going to be not only increasing the employment opportunities for our students, raising their wages, but also will help to encourage some of our New College students, more of our New College students, to stay here in Sarasota and Manatee. We're asking that funding be made permanent to base. So now I'm going to turn this over to John Martin, who can talk about other initiatives.
Just a few fixed capital outlay things. Good morning. The Board of Governors have not put their fixed capital outlay priorities together at the moment, but we're going to be close to the top, I think. Thank you for the funding that we received this past legislative session to plan for an addition to our science facility to support our math, biology, chemistry, physics operations. It's a long time in coming, and I think you'll see that toward the top of the list. Also, another very important thing for the entire state university system is critical deferred maintenance of our existing facilities. New College in particular has a significant number of buildings that are extremely in the 30, 40, 50-year range and older, and so we would receive a share of whatever you're able to appropriate in that regard, and we very much appreciate that to help keep those buildings open. I would also say that the shared services, and again, we did get significant support from the Board of Governors for our 2 collaborative requests, but New College and USF-Sarasota Manatee are sort of the poster child for sharing services and efficiencies, both in terms of our police operation, our library, our bookstore, counseling and wellness, and so we're very proud to show that we can work together, we can share, and keep those costs down and provide good support services for both our students and USF-Sarasota Manatee. And we even have shared services with the FSU in Ringling with our shared chiller plant. So we're trying our best to make those state dollars give it the biggest impact possible. Thank you so much.
All right, thank you. Members, any questions? Thank you very much for coming. Next up, we have the Manatee County School Board, Chair Karen Carpenter. You're recognized.
Good morning. I'm not the chair. I'm one of the board members, and our chair rotates every year, mercifully, because it is a big responsibility. And I have Robert Gause, another member, with me. He's been chair how many times now? Just one. I've been chair one. Before I address what I wanted to address in the letter that I sent you, I want to highlight the volleyball team over at State College of Florida. Yes. Dr. Probstfeld may not know that the entire team plus the athletic director was with us 2 days with the Kiwanis group that sponsors a Christmas in August for homeless children. We have a great number of homeless children in Manatee County, and the downtown Kiwanis and some other churches put on a big event. All of your wonderful athletic and very tall volleyball players, which gives them an advantage when spiking and getting that ball over. So they do the community service, and the school district, like other entities, can't really function without a lot of collaboration and service. I want to thank this delegation and congratulate, as others have, both Senator Galvano and Representative Boyd on your chairmanship, and the others of you who had a lot of patience. When I was last here, our board chair and our management was in Tallahassee before the Joint Legislative Audit Oversight Committee, apologizing and reassuring that committee that we would be in full compliance with all the Auditor General's citations. And I'm very pleased that under new management, our superintendent is in a meeting this morning with principals, otherwise he would be here. Our finances are rebuilt, our budget is balanced, and our student scores are improving. So thank you very much. We really appreciate that, and we're on our way. We sent a letter in which reflects what other school systems have requested, the Florida School Board Association and the Florida Association of District School Superintendents. The legislature has imposed dramatic change on testing, a testing score schedule. And that word dramatic change was cited by one of our principals when she sent a letter out to parents and staff and the community about this and how we have to comply in too short a period of time. We don't need any drama. Change is fine, accountability is something we fully embrace, but dramatic change is something, and we would request that you slow down the pace of implementing the test score. We do need some relief. And I think one of the things about the whole issue of testing is the validity and reliability of the tests. And we haven't seen that come up yet. And all of us who've had courses in graduate statistics know that we really need to make sure that we get it right and that those tests are statistically reliable and valid. I, like two of my colleagues on the board, started my career as a school teacher. And I wasn't sure whether I was going to get reelected, and I knew they needed a Latin teacher over at Manatee High, and I was already on my way to being credentialed. So I would have done that gladly, returned to the classroom. Teaching is not valued sufficiently. It is an art and a science, and these tests impose, with this value-added model, really an arbitrary and statistical metric that doesn't really reflect what goes on in that classroom. Those of you who've had children and have children and do not remember the tests you took, but you remember your teachers and your children's teachers. And so I would request that whatever you do for funding and any ongoing commitment that you slow down this testing schedule. That would be very, very helpful to us for many, many reasons. Mr. Gause, I don't know if you'd like to add to this.
Yeah, and I'd like to echo my colleague. Thank you for what you do. I know what you do takes a lot of time, a lot of energy, and is probably underappreciated. So first of all, thank you all for what you do, and was going to congratulate Senator Galvano on his position as the Senate Majority Leader. So that's quite a recognition. You know, we talked. You know, Ms. Carpenter talked a little bit about the testing, and just to kind of put it in perspective, you know, I kind of like to say that nobody that walked on the moon or got them there took an end of the course exam or the FCAT. We understand that the state is looking for more and more testing or more and more, you know, measurement, data measurement. But at this point, with what has happened, you're actually requiring kindergartners to take end of course exams. And school districts are having to write end of course exams for things like kindergarten classes. And we think that it's overkill. And we'd like for you to look at that and maybe rein that in some. We understand reading, writing, arithmetic, the science, but it has kind of gone off the deep end, and the districts are saying it's not productive use of the teachers or the students' times, and it's actually not a very productive use of the state revenues and the district dollars. So that was really where we're looking at for some relief on the testing. One of the other ones, and this is a sort of a shift, but it's just a recognition that what we're finding and what I'm finding is that we're having to, increasing percentages of our students, increasing numbers of students across the state and certainly in our community are coming from poverty households. And they're not coming prepared for school. And we're realizing we have to reach them earlier and earlier. The money that we spend getting them in to school, starting school at the ready level, you know, most principals will tell you the best money we spend at the elementary level is actually in the VPK level. Getting students ready to learn before they start school. And what we know and what the data shows is that we've actually got to take that down to earlier levels. We've got to start trying to reach down to the 3-year-olds and the 2-year-olds. And it's not that, you know, anybody necessarily says, hey, we just want to expand the scope of the schools and the K-12 education continuum, but it is the reality. The money that we spend on reaching down to those 2-year-olds and 3-year-olds will be money actually possibly saved in the remediation costs that we're spending as they come into the school to try and get them where they need to be. We have to change their norm, because right now what we're doing is we're spending literally millions of dollars remediating students that are starting school behind where they need to be. The kindergartners teachers are spending their time trying to get students ready for kindergarten after they've entered kindergarten at the expense of the students who did show up ready for kindergarten. The same thing's happening with first graders, second graders, third graders, and right on through. The colleges are also being tasked with remediating students because it's just a Herculean task, and it's costing literally millions, tens, maybe hundreds of millions of dollars to deal with the remediation issue. And if we can look at, as the state goes forward, as the state has additional revenues, if we, in the short term, as we have additional revenues, if we can't at the state level push more for VPK, push VPK down to the earlier levels, we believe that there's going to be a long-term return on that investment at the state level, as well as arguably the product that we put out and that the colleges receive and that the business community receives. So this is a shift in the way education is being approached in this state, but I think that you're going to see that if we can start, and it's going to take the legislature to help do it, but if we do this, I think that you're going to see some very good long-term gains, and we just need to start that conversation and see if we can't look at taking that down earlier and reaching those students, that high percentage of students that are showing up for school not ready to learn anymore. And we've got to change that, and that's one way we think that we can. So again, thank you all for your time.
All right, thank you. Members, any questions? Representative Boyd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And just two quick brief remarks. One, congratulations to you, board members, and also to Superintendent Mills. We stood with you, and I think I can speak for the delegation, but I know I can speak for myself when I say you have done a Herculean effort in turning things around organizationally, financially, and academically. And we stood with you in Tallahassee as you faced those challenges and pleaded for mercy, if you will, at the school district's request, and certainly you have proven that we did the right thing there. So thank you for that. And also, I talked with Superintendent Mills on these recommendations from the superintendents, told him when the committees got assigned in Tallahassee and we knew who was going where, I would certainly pass those on to the education chairman, as well as certainly the three of us have them, and I know Senator Galvano does as well. So we'll keep that in front of those that are day-to-day making those decisions in Tallahassee. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
All right, let me ask.
Oh, hold on just a second. Representative Rouson, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, and good morning. Thank you for
morning.
the work that you do. Is Palmetto High School one of the schools that has a rowing team, a rowing outreach for the students?
Palmetto High has well, we now have the Manatee County Rowing Club. Palmetto High initiated rowing in the schools. They're actually in the paper this morning, I think.
Well, I mention that because one of the things we tried to work on with the Sarasota Rowing Center was outreach to minority students to help them understand that there's another pathway to college other than football, basketball, and baseball. And I read about some things that Palmetto High is doing in Booker down in Sarasota, but I want to compliment that and do what we can to beef that up.
Thank you.
Thank
We're
you.
very proud of that program.
Southeast and Manatee High are the three, and Palmetto are the three high schools that have, and the students can get a varsity letter in rowing, which is wonderful as well. So it does, you're perfectly correct. It puts them on a path to a scholarship to one of the colleges that like rowers.
And it also reaches students that maybe wouldn't be in the football program or the baseball program. It's a diverse program. It requires a lot of discipline, and we're seeing great success in those programs in our schools.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
The Airport Authority is up next, but I want to wait until Senator Galvano gets back since we're going to be discussing some other things. So I'm going to skip in the agenda a little bit. We're going to go to the Peace River Manasota Regional Water Supply Authority. You're recognized.
Yes, good morning, Chair Steube and members of the delegation. And really thank you for the opportunity to have this dialogue today. Our water supply authority is comprised of 4 counties, Manatee, Sarasota, Charlotte, DeSoto, is put together to create a collaborative process to ensure that we have a reliable, sustainable, and affordable water supply for this region into the future. Manatee County has always been a leader in our authority, starting with Ed Chance, who was actually one of the creators of it, followed by Pat Glass, and today John Chappie sits as our board member and vice chair. We do appreciate all that leadership. Water supply is critical, not only for our residents, but for the economy and prosperity of the future of this region. I want to express our appreciation that in the past legislative session that you provided state funding for our water project. It's ongoing. I'm glad to give you the feedback that I was down there yesterday. There were like 30 to 40 construction workers on site. It was hard to get a count because they're running around like ants, but they're good jobs. They're pipe fitters, welders, electricians, instrumentation people. So you have succeeded in both creating jobs and, more importantly, creating infrastructure that will be there to serve into the future. And that infrastructure provides alternative water supply for the region. Why is that important? The Water Management District has designated this area, all 4 counties, as part of the Southern Water Use Caution Area, where groundwater is limited. So with the carrot and the stick approach, that public supply is going to alternative water supply. The ag people don't have that opportunity. So not only does that help the public supply by funding through the state, through SWIFMUD, other opportunities, and the locals, but that relieves the competition for the precious groundwater. Leave that for the ag people. So it's a win-win for everybody. The value of water, it's often taken for granted. People turn on their faucet, it's there. But I will assure you that it's critical for the growth and the economy of this region for the future. Without water, we will not be able to compete for new businesses that will supply the jobs for the future of our residents. I'm glad to stand here and say over the last years that over $300 million in new infrastructure has been put in place to serve the region, creation of new alternative water supply along with interconnecting existing supplies. This was done through partnerships with the state, with SWIFMUD, and the local governments, interconnecting the region and providing for more alternative water supply. There are past programs that have been initiated, I put them in your book, that the SB 44 Sustainable Water Program, and more specifically the RAP program that is in legislation that is specifically to help this regional water supply authority create alternative water supply for the future. Those exist. I hear over and over from many of the leadership in Tallahassee, this is the year for water. There are a lot of water issues critical to the state of Florida for all users. There is a basis, dust them off, take a look. They may work, they may need to be recreated, but it is a starting point. And I'm here today to pledge to you that we are available to help you craft legislation, funding for the future that is beneficial to the state, to this region. Our economy and prosperity of the future is dependent on a reliable and safe infrastructure for water for the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any questions? All right, thank you for coming today.
Thank you.
All right, we're going to go back in the agenda to the Sarasota Manatee Airport Authority. And I've been told that you do want to consider the
Yes.
local bill now?
Mr. Chairman,
okay. And
I
there
apologize for the confusion. Because the language was sent in later than the letter explaining the issues that we had, and Mr. Bailey's out of town on some family responsibilities, I had an opportunity to talk to him on the phone since our first presentation. The language that's in your packet is the final language and will not be any proposals to change that.
And so just so the members are clear, it's in your packet, there's a 2-page document and starts with the definition of enclave.
Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I did have an opportunity. I was actually out reviewing it, and so I'm fine with it.
So let's move forward. If you could go ahead and explain the bill for the delegation.
Actually, it's to allow us to have the powers to enforce the Florida Fire Prevention Code. In that enclave area, there is no one having authority, having jurisdiction. So we want to make sure that we're protecting the safety of the public. And so this would allow us to enforce the fire codes and the fire prevention statutes. We have trained, certified people on our fire force staff that can have the ability and the certification to enforce it. But right now we don't have the jurisdiction. As I said, we may be able to work this out where we're designated by Manatee County to have that jurisdiction and will not need this, but because of the time constraints, we have to make sure that this is a backup plan if anything happens. So we may end up withdrawing this before the session and have it worked out with Manatee County, but if we don't, then we're going to need some way to enforce it, or we're going to have to wait till 2016 to enforce the fire prevention code.
Members, do you have any questions on the bill?
No, like I said, I saw it.
Is there any public comment? Mr. Pitts, would you like to comment on the bill? You recognize you got 3 minutes.
It don't take that long. You already got precursor earlier. I've seen Brian Pitts, just Jesus. Your legislature has a lot of work to do, and it does it when it does up there. And the gentleman made very clear as a backup. So he's saying they can't resolve it because there's no reason to bring it before you today. Why is he bringing you a bill that the practice, at least most legislature is y'all don't get involved in local matters. You first let them resolve it. And when they cannot, then you bring forth a local bill because you need your help. He's not saying he needs your help. He just said you're trying to work this out. That's one. That's the first thing. I understand your protocol may be different, but I know most delegation, most legislature I deal with, that's what they say. We're not going to get involved. We had a similar thing dealing with EMS and Pinellas. And Senator Vela didn't want to get involved until the locals did their last resort. And when they found out they couldn't, then he wanted to get involved. I'm just saying a similar scenario where you don't get involved in local matters because legislature has enough to deal with. Bring us only what you, now, the second thing is, what's the rush? Okay, he says dealing with fire districts. Okay, the areas that are being taken care of are, even without this legislation he's talking about. So now what's the rush to bring to you something that may not be needed? Then don't bring us anything. I don't understand. Why are you doing this bill? Well, go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Pitts. Is there any other member of the public that would like to testify as to the bill? Seeing none, is there any debate on the bill? Seeing none, is there any objection to the bill? Seeing no objection, I show that the local bill passes without objection. All right, now we're going to go back to where we were in the agenda. Lakewood Ranch CDD 2, 5, and 6. Mr. Williams, you are recognized.
Good morning, Senators and Representatives. I'm Richard Williams. I'm the chair of Lakewood Ranch Community Development District 6. I'm here on behalf of Lakewood Ranch Community Development Districts 2, 5, and 6. We have over 3,000 homes and 80 miles of road. We are requesting corrective legislation to address an oversight in Senate Bill 522 in 2002. That bill, codified at 336125, was a transportation bill that allowed any homeowner association, HOA, to request the jurisdictional county to convey the publicly dedicated county road and right-of-way within the HOA to the HOA. Developers generally dedicate subdivision roads to county or to an HOA. If development occurs under a CDD, the roads still may be dedicated to the county or HOA, but in many cases, taxes and bonds are taken out by the developer, then in control of the CDD, and the roads are dedicated to the CDD. A CDD is an independent special district under Chapter 190, and those roads are public just like a city road or a county road. The 2002 legislation created a process for an HOA to petition the county to take the county roads private by conveying them to an HOA. No such provision was included for CDDs. Please understand no state or county funds have ever been used to build or maintain roads within our CDDs, or most likely any CD in the state where roads are dedicated to the CDD. In fact, we don't get gas tax. Cities and counties do. We have public roads. We don't get a share of the gas tax either. The approval of the bill amending Chapter 190 would permit a process for the conveyance of publicly dedicated roads within a CDD to be granted to the HOA. Although the Lakewood Ranch gates give the illusion of privacy, the roads are public and gate security must grant access to all traffic. In the past 12 years, HOAs have petitioned the jurisdictional county under that 2002 Act many times with success of conveyance of county roads within the HOA in order to attain greater privacy, security, property value enhancement, insurance rate reduction, and control of maintenance through the existing statutory process. The CDDs are asking for a level playing field. The Lakewood Ranch CDDs recognize that legislation is only step one in reaching privatization. IRS regulations require roads to be opened for public use till bonds are retired or defeased. The draft bill and the written materials is based upon the template of Florida Statute 336125. And the written materials are letters of support from the two affected HOAs and other CDDs as well. On behalf of our 3 CDDs in Lakewood Ranch, we ask that this bill be introduced and supported. Questions?
Are there any questions? All right, seeing no questions, thank you for coming today. That completes our government section. So we're going to take like a 5-minute break while we try to redo some of the microphone podium type situation here so we're not looking across each other. So we're going to take a 5-minute break. We are going to reconvene at 9:50, 9:55. Thank you.
2, testing 1, 2, check, check, 1, 2. Check, 1, 2, check, 1, 2.
Okay, let's try to take our seats, please.
Guess we're going to see you again, right? Congratulations to Doug Griffin.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you for indulging us in a quick recess. We are going to start right back into the agenda. I want to let you know that there are 28 people that are still set on the agenda. So if you can keep your comments as brief as possible, that would be greatly appreciated. And with that, we are going to start with the Sarasota Manatee chapter of the Hearing Loss Association of America, Mr. Richard Williams. Thank you, sir. You are recognized.
I'm Richard Williams, and I'm a trustee and represent the HLAA, Hearing Loss Association, Sarasota Manatee chapter. We have 200 active members, 800 other subscribers, and 600 Facebook friends. The mission is to open the world of communication to people with hearing loss through HLA's service, education, advocacy, and support. I can hear you because this is a room here at Steube. We worked with the USF to get it looped. A loop means that when you speak in the microphone, it comes into my ear clear as Bluetooth. So we have over 100, through advocacy, over 100 places looped here in the county. I'm here as an advocate for 135,000 citizens of Sarasota and Manatee County who are hard of hearing. It's an invisible disability. We're not in wheelchairs. We have no obvious impairment. Fact is, 30% of all persons over 60 have hearing loss and have to cope with that every day. Issue we're presenting today involves captioning. HLA was an advocate for the passage of the federal 21st Century Communications and Video Accessibility Act of 2010. That requires the manufacturer of all TVs to be caption ready, and it requires that all broadcast transmissions be captioned. With FCC rulemaking, the captions are no longer garbled, and 99% of all transmissions are captioned. Televisions in hotels and restaurants are subject to the ADA and Florida statutes. They require, as places of public accommodation, that disabled persons are not discriminated against. The resolution and draft bill amending Chapter 509 in the written materials follows a successful effort in Maryland to provide a better quality of life to the one of 6 of us who have hearing loss or deafness. In the Maryland hearings, there was testimony that some facilities would not permit captioning as it affected full-screen viewing for the patrons. Hotel and restaurant industry objected. Through the conference committee, 2 amendments were made. Captioning would not be necessary unless requested, and TVs did not have to be upgraded if they had an old TV. The hotel and restaurant industry signed off, and it's been working very well for the past 4 years. A license requirement for the place of public accommodation to turn on captions upon request would result in training, in a policy and ability to turn on captions. Our folks have reported that the breakfast bars, only a manager can turn it on. The restaurants, sometimes they're busy and they can't put the captions on. And it's a problem when you go out in the public. Also, an ADA suit is very expensive because of attorney fees, and if this was simply a license regulation, a small tweak to Chapter 509 for places of accommodation, hotels and restaurants, this would be very effective. The fiscal and policy note for Maryland is included. It says the proposed legislation will have no impact on small business in Maryland. And I think that's worthy of note. Again, no cost to the state, no cost to the industry. It's a tweak that would help actually 3 million of us here in Florida that have hard of hearing, and it would improve our quality of life. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Are there any questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, we have Jewish Family and Children's Services of the Suncoast, Phil Gorlick. You're recognized.
Thank you. On behalf of the Manatee residents who provide caregiver support for their loved ones, JFCS thanks you for this opportunity to present a truly remarkable service that requires additional funding as our citizens age and want to remain in their homes versus having to be placed unduly into costly living arrangements such as ALFs and nursing homes. In your life experiences, you most likely have played the role of a caregiver, whether as a parent for a children, assisting a loved one who is ill, as an adult child assisting an aging parent, as a life partner assisting an aging mate. Very few of us have not had the experience of being a caregiver. While an act of love and kindness, being a caregiver, particularly for an aging person, causes numerous stressors and could lead to health issues, which can reduce the lifespan of the caregiver. The funding being sought for this legislative issue is to provide additional education, resources, counseling, respite, and programming to promote better health maintenance and stress reduction. As nursing homes, currently 25% of Manatee County's residents are 65 or older. This percentage will no doubt rise over the coming years as baby boomers continue to age and through modern technology live longer lives. With the cost of alternative housing estimated between $83,000 and $91,000 per year, by supporting and championing this $300,000 request to support our caregivers, it is anticipated that an additional 150 caregivers could be supported at an average cost of $2,000 per caregiver household. If the support for caregivers results in loved ones not having to be placed in an alternative living arrangement for a year, there is a potential cost savings between approximately $12 to $13.6 million per year. The cost of supporting one caregiver is less than 2.5% per caregiver versus the cost of placement. You have the difficult task of deciding which issues to support in the upcoming session. I have been told that Rose Chapman, the JFCS CEO, has spoken to Senator Dietert and Representatives Boyd and Steube, who have indicated they're in favor of providing funding for this caregiver initiative. Their ability to quickly see the tremendous return on investment in terms of a potential dollars saved, and more importantly, sustaining a high quality of life for loved ones and caregivers aging in place in their own homes is most noteworthy. On behalf of our aging citizens, I trust you will champion this initiative in the upcoming session. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Questions? All right, thank you very much for coming today. Up next, Manatee County Substance Abuse Coalition. Rita Chamberlain, you were recognized. Good morning.
Good morning. Everybody lively? Good morning, Chair Steube and the Manatee Legislative Delegation. Thank you very much for this opportunity to speak. You have in front of you our priorities. They don't really change because apparently we haven't solved the problem of addiction and substance use disorder. So we're going to keep working at it. First of all, I want to thank AG Pam Bondi for providing current funding to the PDMP. Apparently, it's the only way we're going to keep rolling with this, but I am going to ask that the state consider funding for the Prescription Drug Monitoring Program, the PDMP database, as a recurring and consistent budget item so we don't have to keep worrying about it. It is the single biggest deterrent to illegal diversion of prescription drugs in our state, and it prevents drug-seeking behavior by non-compliant patients. Please, it is a prevention item that deserves funding, and we appreciate your interest and concern for this. Second, around alcohol legislation, we ask that our delegation support any social hosting legislation introduced, and there will be some social hosting introduced, that increases penalties for adults who allow house parties to take place where minors possess or consume alcohol or other drugs. Also, please consider introducing or supporting legislation that makes it illegal to serve an obviously intoxicated person. Florida is one of only 3 states, the other 2 are Nevada and Wyoming, and they have much wider open spaces, that don't have this. Maybe we can prevent more wrong-way driving crashes on our Bay Area roads. It's a problem. There is a solution. Please continue to hold firm on limiting state preemption of locally enacted ordinances. You've been great. We appreciate it. Please continue to do that. This will be a hot-button subject when the designation of locations for grow and distribution sites for low THC strains of marijuana is determined by the identified state agencies. Finally, as to the recent and continuing attempts to legalize marijuana in Florida, some say poor wording caused Amendment 2's demise. Others say that the proponents' campaign committed a series of forced and unenforced errors. Still, others say that the opponents ran a better, more disciplined and focused campaign, including social media, with experts as messengers, medical doctors, law enforcement, including our own Sheriff Steube, drug treatment professionals, and Supreme Court justices. As is usually the case, a combination of these and other factors led to Amendment 2's defeat. It is tempting for the casual observer or optimistic proponent to look at Amendment 2's margin of defeat and come to the false conclusion that even though Amendment 2 failed to get the supermajority required for passage, it got majority support, including in Manatee County, which should move legislators, as yourselves, to approve a similar proposal. Please do not be caught in that trap. It is possible the proponents may tweak some loopholes, but the biggest one, which would allow pot to be used for virtually any condition or discomfort, provides for the de facto legalization of marijuana that is the true intent of supporters. Education and information provided by opponents in this last run to election November 4 dropped an 88% approval rating by 30 points in 6 months. Education and information provided our electorate with the tools that they needed to vote this down. Without a doubt, there are good people moved to compassion for those who suffer and who would not want to preclude marijuana as a treatment option. As legislators, you have already given our state that option in the last session. And in fact, a prior Florida statute, 89.3.136A, allows physicians to prescribe any treatment, including marijuana, based on specific conditions and within documented protocols. We can get it here if we need to. We don't need legislation to do that. Unfortunately, compassion has been successfully preyed upon in other states by those whose true intent is full legalization of pot. No reasonable person who has seen a picture of Venice Beach in California or seen how medical marijuana was the first step to full legalization in Colorado, Washington State, and Oregon could believe otherwise. Please know that the robust coalition of sheriffs and other law enforcement, doctors, respected constitutional attorneys, preventionists, business leaders, and the funders who came together to defeat Amendment 2 remain united and vigilant. Manatee County Substance Abuse Coalition is thankful to the people for defeating this dangerous amendment, and we are honored to have been a part of it. Thank you for your support and concern.
Thank you, Rita. Any questions? Representative Rouson, you're recognized.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Tell me why, again, you feel like there should not be a legislative solution, or at least the 57% that voted for the constitutional amendment is not some suggestion to the legislature that we need to get our arms and hands around this thing and do something before it comes back.
You're recognized.
It is our intent, purpose, and belief that any move towards medical marijuana as it is currently provided is simply a move to legalize marijuana in any form. There are routes for medicine to be made available to everyone in the United States. There are current scientific studies being undertaken to look at ways to clone marijuana, the smoked version even, in order to make sure that it provides a consistent dosage and so that it can be prescribed. Okay. But right now, there's nothing out there. The science doesn't support it. There is no reasonable scientific study or inquiry that identifies smoked marijuana as a medicine. It simply doesn't exist. We have the low THC available through legislative process, and we have the CBD, the cannabinoid portion of marijuana, of the plant, available in non-smoked varieties. The pills, Savanax, others, have been available for decades. It's not that people can't get it. Okay, we can get the medical form of marijuana. It is available right now. What we don't want to see is the smoked form, which has no dosage, no recommendation, no science base, and is not, as we recognize medicine in this country, has never gone through that process.
You have a
So
follow-up?
our concern is legislation is talking about medicine that doesn't exist.
Leave it alone.
Thank you. Senator Galvano, you have a question?
Yes, thank you, Chair. And I think you answered my question. You're comfortable with what we did last session, correct?
We are. We understand your moves in that direction. We have some concerns as to how that's going to play out in terms of grow sites and how to make sure that the entire supply chain is monitored and all of those other pieces. But we understand the motivation, and we will support any, let's say, slow-moving understanding of how marijuana can be used as a medicine. But we're not going to support, and we will be vigilant in making sure that any pathway that brings marijuana to legalization as a smoked version is precluded.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Up next, we have the Central Florida Behavioral Health Network. Linda McKinnon, you're recognized.
Good morning. Thank you, Chair Steube and members of the delegation for allowing me the opportunity to speak. My name is Linda McKinnon, and I'm the CEO of Central Florida Behavioral Health Network. We're a managing entity. Managing entities administer, manage, and ensure accountability for funds appropriated through the state's behavioral health network. This network includes hundreds of providers, our community coalitions, the National Alliance for Mental Illness, as well as traditional and support providers. Our mission is to ensure the highest quality of care for persons in need of mental health and substance abuse services and who have no other way to pay. Our services help individuals to rebuild their lives and become productive citizens. Although Central Florida Behavioral Health Network has been managing substance abuse for many years, the statewide managing entity network was created less than 2 years ago by the Florida legislature. You, our leaders, expected big changes from mental health and substance abuse, service delivery through this move of managing entities, and we were charged with accountability and transparency. What changes have occurred since that time? No longer are decisions made by Tallahassee for our local communities. The managing entities are local, nonprofit organizations that are community-driven. It allows our community right here to target and leverage services, eliminate duplication, create efficiencies, and reward excellence while retaining community control. Last year, through CFBHN in the Suncoast region, we served over 120,000 people in treatment. We touched 800,000 people through prevention efforts from our local communities. And right here in this district, we served in treatment over 17,000 people. That really shows that there is a huge need for services for our communities. Used to be a lot of questions with the department about efficiencies, data, and outcome. The Central Florida Behavioral Health Network operates at less than a 3.5% administrative overhead of all the funds. Gone are the funding entitlements with no accountability. Managing entities are good stewards of the public dollars, and funding is attached now to both outputs and performance. At Central Florida, we immediately post and update our providers' outcomes at the network, district, and provider level, and that's on our website. I would offer you to feel free, please, to look at that. It's at www.cfbhn.org. Our outcomes are posted and updated regularly. As I said, it's a big resource for you if you're looking at how many people in this community need services, have access to services, and the outcomes of those services. Like any new system, there's been bugs to fix, and you will probably hear about that, or have. But we're aggressively working together as networks to build a smarter system through informed decision-making, care management, and partnering with our child welfare, school systems, criminal justice, county governments, veterans, and primary care providers. We've worked within this community to expand successful peer, employment, and supportive housing services. The math is really very simple. With the right appropriate amount of funding, we can successfully treat over 1,000 adults in the community for the cost of one bed in a state forensic facility. This session, the communities and the managing entities will come to you with several legislative priorities. You've heard some. I know Manatee Glens will be here later talking about theirs. And I want to bring to your attention, though, that with the lack of funding, Florida has slipped to 49th, or from 49th in the nation for funding for behavioral health. According to the Kaiser Foundation, that's triplet because we're also the third highest state for the uninsured. We understand that the reductions to our services that occurred during the downturn of the economy, but during the past decade, the legislature has dedicated millions of dollars to programs for mental health and substance abuse, good programs, but all very targeted to specific individuals or specific services. They're all excellent. We looked at them. We've looked at all the quote turkeys. They're excellent programs. But base funding for core services has decreased. The services that we really need for everybody, medical services, prescriptions, our crisis centers, the things that really keep the community safety net. In fact, when we look at it, and I'm sorry I didn't get this into your packets, but I will be glad to send it to you, or I have them with me to give to you today. We did do a study and looked, and based on the population growth in Florida, as well as inflation, it would take $129 million just to get the indigent service fund available for mental health and substance abuse treatment back to where we were in 2000.
Ms. McKinnon, can you bring your comments in for a close? You're
Certainly.
exceeding the time here.
So I'm here today on behalf of our providers in our communities to ask you to consider this year to increase the base level of funding for mental health and substance abuse treatment and prevention services. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Members, do you have any questions?
Just a comment, we're having a meeting Monday on those issues in Tallahassee.
Thank you. Sure. Yeah, you can hand those out.
Yeah, please, thank you.
Next up, Mr. Bill Wheeler. You're recognized, sir.
Mr. Chair. Mr. Chair.
Yes, Representative Rouson.
I wanted
My
to.
name is William R. Wheeler.
Mr. Wheeler, hold on just a second.
Yeah,
Certainly.
I just wanted to remind you that I apologize for being a little late this morning. Ran into a little traffic coming across the bridge. But I have a matter in Clearwater at 11 o'clock, and I don't want to be disrespectful and walk out and not have you know that, but for the exigency, I would be staying. It's very important to participate in this area of my district whenever the opportunity presents itself, and I want to thank you for allowing me that.
Yes, sir, and thank you for coming and hearing the concerns of Manatee County. Mr. Wheeler, you are recognized.
Honorable representatives of the state of Florida, Mr. Steube, ladies and gentlemen, my name is William R. Wheeler. I'm a resident of this county for well over 50 years. And I live in a homeowners association. I've been here several years ago on this same subject. In pursuant to, there's no sense of cutting down more trees to give you copies of documents. Florida statute 718.5011 omnibusman appointments and administrations. I simply wish homeowners associations be added to that. As it presently exists, it is condominiums, time-sharings, and mobile homes. Why not homeowners associations? I am not a second-class citizen. At least I don't think I am. I don't think that all of the other thousands of your constituents are. Under the control of homeowners associations in the United States, the value for the property is $2 trillion, that's T trillion dollars. This is a huge industry. It's growing by leaps and bounds because it's homeowners associations and the people have no one to turn to. If you live in a mobile home, you have government help, you have assistance, you have a place to go for guidance. I am looking for an omnibusman for the exact same thing. I wish to change just very slightly the wording of that document and document 718.5012, omnibusman powers and duties. I simply wish that also extended, that document extended to cover homeowners associations. There is no way. Any one of you may live, I know nothing of any of you gentlemen, any one of you may live in a homeowners association under the jurisdiction of it. Do you consider yourself a second-class citizen? But the legislature is making a, pardon me? I know. Be nice to him. I happen to like the gentleman, known him for years. Know a lot of people try to stay away from him. They're better off.
Could you do us a favor and
make it short? What I want is to change.
That'd be
this.
great too. But what I was going to say was, there's not any that information is not in our packet. So when you leave today, if you could give that statute number to
anyone and everyone.
There you go. Okay.
And just read it and change it so that it covers. And if you need financing, then a very small. Think of when you add it up. If each homeowner paid $2 a year, and there were 400 of them where I live, almost 400, and there's 1,000 of them in this county alone, they would have for pennies on the dollar decent, honorable legal advice that they could count on, as opposed to the opinion of some management company. I attended, to give you one point, I attended the management course required of board members. 1/3 of the way through it, the lady conducting the board said, whatever you do, do not go to one of these required one of these required meetings to serve on your board if it is given by a law firm. All they want to do is teach you the law. They won't teach you how to run a homeowners association, just the law. Maybe I shouldn't have said that. There's too many lawyers in the room.
All right, well, thank you, Mr. Weir.
Yeah, I know, sir. I'm well aware of that.
We appreciate your time. Members, any questions?
Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you. Please consider it for me.
Yes, sir. Up next, Manatee Glens. And I have Mary Ruiz down, but you are not Mary Ruiz, so you're recognized.
My name is Melissa Larkin Skinner, and I'm the Chief Clinical Officer for Manatee Glens, and I'm representing Mary Ruiz today, who regrets that she's unable to be here. I'm also representing 16,000 community residents who owe you, our legislative delegation, a debt of gratitude. These men, women, and children received mental health and addiction services from Manatee Glens last year, thanks to your advocacy and support for Florida's behavioral health system. We ask that you continue to champion our mental health and addiction system now more than ever. This is a critical year for increasing funding. The toll of recessionary budget cuts and lack of increases over the decades place our behavioral health services in great peril. I would like to share with you a list of mental health and addiction issues, which I hope you will make a priority during session. 1, increase community mental health outpatient Medicaid rates. Medicaid pays only 60% of the cost, and it will take $49 million in general revenue to set this aright and preserve services statewide. These services are critical for millions of Floridians. Number 2, restore CAT team and other services to recurring. $12 million in statewide mental health and addiction services, including $750,000 for the Manatee Glens CAT team, are at risk with non-recurring funding. CAT is a statewide model developed by Manatee Glens, providing parents of seriously emotionally disturbed youth the support they need to raise their families at home safely. Number 3, assure the future of the Manatee Glens Crisis Center. The state pays Manatee Glens only 66% of the daily cost, and it will take $544,000 in recurring funding to assure those services continue. The 20-year-old facility also needs a new roof and refurbishment to continue to meet standards at a cost of $1.8 million. That's a one-time cost. Number 4, address the shortage of psychiatric medical education. Manatee Glens is stepping up to meet local shortages of psychiatrists by launching an adult psychiatric residency program, training up to 12 physicians per year. But a recurring general revenue appropriation of $350,000 will secure the future of the program, which is not eligible for general medical education funding under federal Medicaid guidelines. This is one more example of how behavioral health is treated unequally in the healthcare system. Manatee Glen seeks your advice on how we can make these historic reforms in Florida's behavioral health system. We are 49th of 50 states in mental health funding, and this is something that you have a chance to change this legislative session. More information is included in your packets. If you have any questions or need additional information, Mary Ruiz and I would be happy to help. And thank you for making the families who need our care a priority in your representation of our community.
Thank you very much. Questions? All right, up next we have Nature's Academy, Dana Pounds. You're recognized.
Good morning, Chairman Steube and delegates. Thank you very much for having me this morning. My name is Dana Pounds, and I represent Nature's Academy, a nonprofit environmental education company based here in Bradenton. We aim to enhance science literacy and foster environmental stewardship through inquiry-driven programs. Personally, I serve as the founder and executive director. In 1999, I was diagnosed with a rare form of cancer affecting my right leg, ultimately resulting in my amputation. To this day, my disease remains an ongoing battle as we recently discovered the return of my cancer. Nonetheless, these challenges serve as a daily reminder of my purpose here on Earth and were the impetus behind founding Nature's Academy in 2007. Since then, we have seen over 35,000 participants from 41 states. So why am I here today? I would like to shed some light on the education crisis, particularly in science, that we face as a nation and offer a possible solution. Did you know that less than 50% of American adults know how long it takes for the Earth to revolve around the sun? This is not surprising, considering more than 50% of our graduating seniors in Florida are not proficient in science. As a matter of fact, the U.S. ranks 52nd and declining in math and science achievement worldwide. This translates into an estimated 2.4 million unfilled STEM jobs in 2018 in the U.S. Here in Manatee County, only half of our graduating elementary students are proficient in science. While we celebrate that this number has risen over the past several years, Manatee County proficiency still falls behind all of our neighboring counties and our statewide proficiency rates. Our solution, the Science Literacy Project, where we bring the classroom outdoors. Education methods involving hands-on experiences strengthen the delivery of STEM concepts. Over 90% of students exposed to outdoor experiential programs outperform their peers from traditional classrooms. Unfortunately, elementary school students are disproportionately impacted by state budget cuts, often taking significant hits to extracurricular activities such as field trip programs. This project is our way of giving back by providing public school districts with an effective program designed to increase academic achievement, enhance science literacy, and foster environmental stewardship. Of the 35,000 participants I mentioned earlier, more than 6,000 local fifth grade students have been served through the Science Literacy Project to date at no cost. This project supplements classroom curriculum across the disciplines and applies concepts through field trip activities. Students explore our local estuary on Anna Maria Island through a series of nature walks, water quality investigations, and coastal cleanups. On average, 80% of our students demonstrate academic achievement directly correlated with our programs. But it's not just about the science and the academics. Manatee County is situated near both Sarasota and Tampa Bay estuaries. These areas are both ecologically and economically important, while serving as nursery grounds for crabs, fish, oysters, and all other animals that are relevant to the local seafood and commercial fishing industries. However, the health of our local estuaries is greatly impacted by inland activities. Land-based litter accounts for 80% of marine debris found on local shorelines and offshore. The Science Literacy Project also fosters environmental stewardship, as participants have collected over 4,000 pounds of litter from local shorelines. For the past 5 years, we've worked closely with the Manatee County School District officials, Parks and Natural Resources, and funding partners to increase our impact and establish the Science Literacy Project as an annual district-wide program. For this school year, we are proud to announce that we have been able to garner over $50,000 in grants and donations that have directly supported 57 fifth grade classes from 13 public schools. With the district's support, we are excited to announce that we are district-wide this year, 6 years ahead of our schedule. We hope that this trend continues, but funding remains a challenge. The Science Literacy Project continues to evolve and receive recognition. Over the past 2 years, we've been named as a Tampa Bay Lightning Community Hero, the Florida Wildlife Federation Conservation Educator of the Year, and also recently received a Gulf Guardian Award from the EPA. Our community needs consistent educational programs like the Science Literacy Project that equip our future leaders and workforce with the inspiration and tools for STEM success and academic achievement. I hope that you agree and we are able to work together to establish this program as a permanent addition to our school district. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Pounds. Thank you. Up next, we have the Florida Center, Catherine Shea. You're recognized.
Good morning.
Morning.
And thank you for the opportunity to speak before you today. It's very important that we get a chance to see you, and I visit you frequently, and to be here to publicly say what our concerns and our issues are. So I'm here on behalf of Florida's only statewide fetal alcohol diagnostic clinic, which we have had in operation since 2005 and resulted as a co-sponsor on a CBER by Senator Mike Bennett and Representative Ron Reagan. We've been able to keep the clinic going through some very challenging times, mostly with your help on the Senate side and the House side. We did take a significant cut to a relatively low budget in 2010, and that was a $100,000 hit to a $380,000 base budget. The program has grown, and I think mostly because we're doing a lot of statewide training, a lot of statewide prevention efforts through PSAs and other published materials. And now our wait list for diagnostic assessments is out to March of 2015. Our families are very frustrated that we can't get them in sooner because we know that if a child has been prenatally exposed to alcohol, their long-term outcomes are highly jeopardized. And the most significant impact by research to their potential is early identification and diagnoses, and then correct treatment interventions to help them and their family succeed. Many of these young ones are in foster care or have been adopted. Some are with their birth moms who are in recovery, and we're working really hard with the birth moms to stay sober because they are the ones at highest risk of having another child born with FASD. So the clinic is really important. Again, I said it's statewide. We serve families from all over the state. 23% of the diagnostic assessments that we've conducted since 2006 have been from Manatee County, and we're providing intensive intervention services to families in Manatee, over 110 since 2006. So it's really important that we can restore this $100,000 cut. It doesn't seem like a lot, but when your base budget's $280,000, $100,000 can do a whole lot more to serve our children and families. And we do know that fetal alcohol syndrome is the leading known cause of intellectual disabilities in Western civilization. It is the only developmental disability that is 100% preventable. If a woman did not drink any alcohol during pregnancy, we would never have another child born in Florida with FASD. The estimated cost to the state of Florida of caring for one child over the lifetime is $2 to $4 million. So if we can prevent it is our best and first option that we're trying to do. We do a lot of prevention efforts, including sending 40,000 physician rack cards around the state annually to be placed in physicians' offices called The Truth About Alcohol and Pregnancy. And we've had great responses from the physicians saying that the rack cards have really opened up conversation for them to be able to talk to their patients about drinking alcohol. Women, surprisingly, are much more reluctant to talk about their alcohol use than their opiate or drug use. And so it's often a hidden, silent teratogen during pregnancy that sometimes physicians don't even know about, and we don't know about until after the child is born. We have had an epidemic here in Florida, and that epidemic continues of substance-exposed newborns. There was a point in time in the NICU in Sarasota when almost 30% of the babies were prenatally exposed to substances, and primarily opiates. Women tend to be polydrug users, so if opiate is used, alcohol is typically used, and it's the first 3 months of the pregnancy, the first trimester, often when women don't even know that they're pregnant, when the greatest damage is done to the brain. And in 1996, a report to Congress by the Institute of Medicine states that of all abused substances, including heroin, cocaine, and marijuana, alcohol produces by far the most serious neurobehavioral effects in the fetus, resulting in permanent disorders of memory, function, impulse control, and judgment. What we do know from research also is that if we don't identify these individuals early and get the treatment services for them and have them recognized as special needs children, they overwhelmingly hit the juvenile justice system. And I study in the state of Washington in doing past receptive studies of the individuals in juvenile justice found that an estimated 55% of those kids were prenatally exposed to alcohol. So it's very important. We're the only statewide clinic. It's a little amount of money. I think we have a great big impact. And if you can do anything to help us restore the $100,000 of cuts that we took in 2010, it would be greatly appreciated.
All right, thank you, Mrs. Shea.
Thank you.
Next up, Justice Jesus, Mr. Pitts.
Furniture changing here.
You're recognized.
Thank you very much, Brian Pitts, Justice Jesus. We all believe that education is important, and that's one of the issues I want to discuss with you. You'll see a statute called required instruction, and that's 1003.42. That's called required instruction. Hasn't been looked at for years. Well, you know what? There's some needless and excessive curriculum there that needs to be completely repealed. Because schools is not even using it. State board don't need to use it. Things have changed. Now, as for we're talking about pre-K through 12, 12. Now, what you want to do is, I'm gonna bring back some old stuff. Home economics. Put that back in K through 12. Put liberal arts in K through 12. World religions, civics, career, vocation type stuff. Put that in pre-K. And now let's go to college, and yeah, let's concentrate on the STEM, pending. But now we gotta get ready for the millenniums. And what are they doing? Social sciences. Obama administration came down with this report in 2014, said they're leaving strictly STEM and the millennials are going to social sciences. A lot of people not catching it. They caught it. One of the biggest issues now then with the colleges is gonna be is you need to ensure that all the higher educations, of course, community colleges, college system, everything, are not teaching outdated and obsolete skills and careers and professions as it applies to future careers. Now, I've been up there with y'all. Have y'all ever checked to see if any of these colleges still are teaching curriculums and aspects that they shouldn't be? And now you're giving them appropriations and they're still funding that. Look, we're not giving you this appropriation. You don't even need that more. Take that off your scale of curriculum and put the STEM and social sciences there. Now, do I expect you to remember all that? No, I said a whole lot of stuff. There's some of that hopefully you can remember. But I'll make this very clear to you. The Race to the Top, the Success Act of 2011, all this other, all those other stuff. The Common Core is screwing up everything. The main thing is STEM and social sciences. The main thing in high school is things like home economics, liberal arts, world, things like that. We're getting off track. Well, we've done reforms in the state of Florida, but no, it's not. It's all, you got all this stuff all over the place. Curriculum here, statutes here. Someone needs to do a complete reform. Someone sit down with the statutes and says, look, that's it. Let's get rid of the junk, and what do we need for education? That's it. Because you got a lot of statutes that don't need to be there anymore. Of constant. Okay, now, that's on that. Hopefully you can get some of that, but I'll see you later on some of the stuff. Now.
You have about 30 seconds.
Hey, I understand. Restructuring the appropriations process. It needs to be in a ledger or in a balance sheet. As you know, the way it is right now, you can't tell. Then the last point, the turkeys and the pork projects, especially happening in conference. Come on, you don't have conference at 11 o'clock at night, tucking new stuff in. Citizens don't know. You need to be honest. And you know about transparency? You need to revamp the budget system to make it really transparent. And I'll leave you with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Pitts. Up next, Michael Meehan. And I have proposal for controlling Florida citizen medical expense. And you've provided us, we all have copies of what you've provided. You are recognized, sir.
Thank you. It's a great privilege, honor to participate in a session like this. It's great to be an American and stand up and talk to you folks about what we're thinking. Appreciate it. The stimulating catalyst for my little presentation this morning really relates to a $650 doctor charge I got last summer when I visited a urologist. $650 for an initial visit, which was then submitted to an insurance company, Blue Cross Blue Shield. They, because of their relationship with the medical practice, dropped the bill down to $250. But it seems like a tremendously outrageous sum of money to see a physician. There has been, as I understand, passage of a bill in the Florida legislature about publishing fees for urgent care centers. And I understand that that is now on the books. What I'd like to propose for the legislature to consider is a similar type of bill for physician practices, whereby they are required to post in their office their fees for the 50 most common procedures that they perform at their office. And also perhaps make it available on a website so that people like myself, right now I figured out I'm paying about $15,000 a year for health insurance for myself and my wife, plus another $2,500 deductible. So $15,000 a year is what I personally am spending for health care. And it just seems like a very high price. I'm out of pocket $2,500. I would like to know before I walk in the door to see a physician what it's going to cost me. And if we can make that publicly available across the state, I think a lot of people would be appreciative of that. Second item, for a number of years, my Blue Cross Blue Shield premium has been going up about 8% a year, which I thought was pretty ridiculous to begin with. But just this past year, my Blue Cross Blue Shield premium went up 15.6%. It's just incomprehensible to understand why that happened. I got up early a couple of months ago. I drove my car up to Jacksonville, and I addressed the Blue Cross board directly in a situation similar to this, asking them, how can you justify this kind of an increase? And they said, well, 4.5 of it was related to mandated Obamacare increases, which I guess are part of the ACA Act that was passed a few years back. Another 2 or 3% was age group increases. As you get older, your premium goes up by a certain amount, and that's just kind of a standard actuarial process. Okay, so I got up to about a 7% increase based on those statistics. So my question would, where did the other 8 or 9% of this premium increase come from? And they couldn't answer the question, or they didn't want to answer the question. And I was talking directly with the board and the people that are the management at Blue Cross Florida. They either couldn't or didn't want to answer the question. So my second recommendation was I examined the financials for Blue Cross for the last 5 years, and their medical expense has gone up in different percentages. For example, in the letter I sent, it went up 62/100ths of 1%. It went down 1 year 9.2%. It went up 2.7%. It went up 11.6%. And the most recent year, which was 2013, their medical expense ratio went up 5.6%. So I took an average of those 5 years and came up with a number of 2.26%. So my recommendation was that...
Sir, can you wrap up quickly,
okay.
Please?
My recommendation was that the premiums that we are being charged bear some relationship to the actual medical costs that the insurance companies are experiencing. And I also suggested that a 10% cap be placed on all premium increases across the board. Appreciate your time.
Thank you very much. Up next, Mr. Cohen, David Cohen. You're recognized, sir.
Good afternoon, gentlemen. Good morning. Thank you for doing this forum. It's an honor and a pleasure to be here. I get to voice my opinion on something, and I guess I'm labeled as a constituent, and I'm a constituent for anybody who agrees with me about taxes and your spending. But you do a good job, and we do really appreciate what you all do up there. I'm concerned about where Florida is on their budget, and the computer only had 2013 budget surplus. Now this is a surplus after you spend your monies of $845 million. And Governor Scott's tax cuts and fee cuts, license plates and so forth, was roughly $500 million, leaving a surplus at the end of 2013 of $345 million. It's going to be more this year. I'm sure you know better the figures than I do. But today, as I stand here, our Florida debt is $23 billion. As you know, that's 23 with 9 zeros. And if the average interest rate is somewhere between 3 and 4%, that's $1 billion of interest, roughly, per year. I would like for you to consider paying down that $23 billion in debt. That helps every taxpayer, every special interest in the room, every socioeconomic group that you can think of by paying down the debt. Perhaps you don't want to use the entire surplus to pay it down, but a substantial amount would be meaningful. And you can do more things in future years without that $23 billion long-term debt. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Representative Boyd, you are recognized.
Thank you. Thank you, sir, for being here. I'll be very brief. I agree with you. The first 2 years that Representative Steube and I were there, 2010 to 2012, we faced about a $6 billion deficit, so we had to deal with that. The last 2 years, we have paid down debt. We put money away in the rainy day fund and refunded some trust funds, and we've also paid down debt. But I believe the Senate and the House is committed to reducing our debt, because we agree that that's just something that we shouldn't pass on to our heirs, and also can't sustain itself for a long time. So we will, I can tell you, this delegation, I feel very comfortable telling you, we will stay at that and on that mission.
Well, I appreciate what you do. I remember this time last year in this room, you all were looking at $150 million worth of requests, and we didn't have the money. At
that was
least
by
that's
10
what you
o'clock
told
in
us.
the morning, by the way.
But appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right, thank you, sir. Up next, Florida Life Care Residents Association. Pat? You're recognized.
Good morning, just on time. Right, great. Certainly glad to see all of you today, and do appreciate this opportunity to come before you. And I think that most of you know where Freedom Village is. I know you've all been there. I'm Pat Ahrens from Freedom Village, and there I serve as the chapter president of the Florida Life Care Residents Association. I'm going to refer to that as FLICRA, since you are familiar with FLICRA and the work we do. So Freedom Village is a continuing care retirement community, which means we have all three levels: the independent, the assisted living, and the skilled nursing there. So FLICRA, my organization, has over 12,000 members and 54 chapters in the state of Florida, and I'm the newly elected president of the state FLICRA board. And so, as you also know, and I will remind you, that FLICRA's mission is to promote and protect the rights of those residents in all the CCRCs in the state of Florida. And we accomplish this through our relationships with our elected officials and state agencies. We've been successful in that protective legislation for 25 years this year. This is our anniversary, 25th anniversary of FLICRA. So today we do want to let you know that amendments to Chapter 651 of the Florida statutes will be proposed in a bill drafted by a joint task force of which I've been a member. And that task force is intent on getting that bill into the legislature for the 2015 legislative session. And your support is certainly requested for that. That joint task force has been working on that bill over a year. We thought we would have it ready last year, but part of it is because this joint task force, which the Governor's Continuing Care Advisory Council asked to be formed, because it's made up of 3 members from the FLICRA organization, 3 from the organization that represents owners, operators, and the executive directors of CCRCs. And so we've been meeting with OIR, the Office of Insurance Regulation staff, for the past year, a lot of push and pull to come up with a kind of bill that certainly is a big improvement and protective for the industry as well as for the residents. This came about as why the Governor's Continuing Care Council wanted this formed to look at enhanced legislation because of the economic situations, the effects of the economic situation since 2008, really. It started then that impacted the real estate markets, the prospective and current residents, assets and savings, and the credit markets, and it created really unique challenges for the whole CCRC industry. Many people were unable to sell their homes, to come up with those sizable entry fees that it takes to move into the CCRCs. And so really serious financial difficulties began to occur and still are having their effects, even though there's some turnaround going on now. And so it resulted in low occupancy rates, with 2 of those facilities even declaring bankruptcy. So among the 16 amendments that this task force has come up with in the bill that we will be giving you copies of probably within the next 2 weeks are amendments that would really strengthen the Office of Insurance Regulation's ability to intervene sooner when they see those situations that indicate the weaknesses in the financial stability in those facilities.
30 seconds.
And I do want to make clear that Freedom Village, as a Brookdale community, we have good reasons to feel secure, but we do have a particular interest in this proposed legislation because marketing efforts can certainly be seriously affected when the concerns of possible financial risks are covered in the news, or if the prospects or their families hear about those problems that are currently being experienced in a number of other CCRCs. So again, thank you. When that bill is finalized, it's going through the legalization process right now. We will ask for your support, and we will be certain to get a copy of that bill to you.
Yeah,
Thanks
please
so
send,
much.
Thank you. And once you have that, Pat, once you have that bill number, if you could get that to us, that way we can track it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, Jim Kaiser, Federation of Manatee County Community Associations. You're recognized.
I'm not Jim Kaiser, but Jim couldn't be here this morning, and he's the president of our organization, and I'm the first vice president. My name is Paul Valenz, and I represent the Federation of Manatee County Community Associations, and our association is comprised of representatives and individuals that are members of local homeowners and condo associations and some individuals. Although our presentation is lengthy, and I think you have our list, I'm just going to touch on a few of the priority subjects that we want to talk about. One is the increase the level of regulation for casualty insurance, mainly flood insurance. An increase in rates has become a burden on many of our constituents and our people that belong to our organization, and for all the Manatee Countyans if they live near the water and even away from the water. In talking to some of the insurance companies, they said, look, if we have to take a bigger risk, you're going to have to pay a higher price. I understand that, but I think that we should look at it, make sure we regulate it, and get the best prices we can for our Manatee County citizens. We want to establish legislation that requires lenders to maintain resident aesthetics and pay all monthly maintenance and association fees commencing at the owner default on loan agreements. When a bank takes over a home for foreclosure or any other reason, they should be paying the homeowners fees. That gives the homeowners associations the money to pay for the electric lights, the pools, whatever it is. But it's very difficult to get this money from the banks, and somehow we should shore that measure up. So they do have to pay the same share that the people who lived in the homes before paid. We'd like to create an Office of Homeowners Ombudsman having all the powers that are necessary to carry out the duties of his or her office with regard to homeowner associations. I'd like to reiterate a little bit of what Bill Wheeler said here. The condo associations have that. And yet when disagreements come up, we have to try to settle it ourselves. We do need the same thing that the condo associations have, and if we do have that, I think it's a way of sending the people that are in disagreement over to the ombudsman and have them settle it, and it will get settled. With us, it goes on for years and years. We oppose changes to the 2012 senior homestead tax exemption that would, number one, base the applicant's eligibility on all personal assets instead of household income. And we would like to require the person applying for the 25-year residency requirement to have qualified for a homestead exemption for at least the past 15 years. With that, those are the 4 priority items that we'd like to see you work on, and we do have the other ones that if you look at it, we would really appreciate it. We appreciate all the help you've given us in the past, especially on the license fees, the plate tags for the automobiles, the keeping of that low, and also the red light information that you people have worked on. So we appreciate that very much, and I thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Good. Up next, National Alliance on Mental Illness, Margaret Moore.
Good morning, senators, representatives, and other distinguished guests. Manatee County will be very fortunate to have Senator Galvano as the Senate Majority Leader and Senator Joyner as the Senate Minority Leader. As a member of the Manatee County National Alliance on Mental Illness, I'm here today to urge you to carefully consider 2 issues that will confront you during the 2015 legislative session. First, legalization of medical marijuana. I have a personal reason for asking you to listen carefully to both the pros and the cons as lobbyists approach you to enact a new law since Amendment 2 did not pass. You have heard me speak several times before about my 49-year-old son who has schizophrenia, but never before have I said publicly that he used marijuana in his early teens. Frighteningly, studies have shown that marijuana can be a contributory cause of schizophrenia. Although I understand marijuana can help with pain, seizures, etc., just a few of the objectionable loopholes in the amendment that need to be corrected if a new bill goes forward are no recommended dosing frequency or alerts to serious side effects. Medical conditions allowed included other presenting no enforceable limitations, and possible greater accessibility of the drug to youth that studies have shown can experience a measurable decline in IQ due to usage before the age of 18. Second, acceptance of Medicaid expansion. I've attached 2 articles, one from the Bradenton Herald and one from the Sarasota Herald Tribune, that quote an Urban Institute and Robert Woods Johnson Foundation study stating that Florida leads the nation in losses from not accepting expansion. Some of the strong arguments in this article include Florida's 10-year cost to expand Medicaid would be $5.4 billion compared to losing out on $6.6 billion from 2013 to 2022. As citizens of one of the 23 states that have rejected expansion, Floridians will help pay $152 billion to extend the program in other states while receiving nothing in return, and a potential loss of 172,400 new healthcare jobs. Additional good reasons for accepting expansion are In both Manatee County and Florida as a whole, 25% of the population is uninsured, including mentally ill. This session is a critical time because the trust fund created by the sale of the Manatee Memorial Hospital 30 years ago runs out in 2015, and the proposed half-cent surtax was defeated. And NAMI, AARP, the Chamber of Commerce with qualifications, the Associated Industries of Florida, and the Florida Medical Association are among other Florida organizations that support expansion. Excuse me 1 minute. I found four additional articles on these issues in the Bradenton Herald after I submitted my speech on Monday, and I'll be happy to supply copies to your offices. One is a study, heavy pot users show changes to the brain. Report, Florida hospitals stand to lose billions. United Way study, nearly a third of the county at poverty risk. And then one in today's that Sheriff Steube and the other sheriffs are saying, look carefully at what you craft if you craft a new bill allowing medical marijuana. Because one in four of your Florida constituents, like the national average, experience mental illness sometime in their lives, I ask you to please begin the 2015 legislative session with minds and hearts open to these two important issues. Thank you for your time and attention.
Thank you, Margaret.
Thank you.
Up next, Take Stock in Children, Diana Dill. Well, Michael, not Diana Dill. You're recognized.
Good morning. I'm Michael Corley, Board Chair for Take Stock in Children Manatee, and I'm proud to be joined here today by fellow board member Walter Miller and Executive Director Diana Dill, both of whom are behind me. Simply stated, Take Stock in Manatee is a one-on-one mentoring and college scholarship program for deserving Manatee County students. We currently serve all 10 middle schools in Manatee County, the 6 high schools, and 3 charter schools. We emerged from being a department of the school district about 2 years ago and are our own independent 501c3, and that is the reason I'm here today representing the group. Currently, we have 113 Manatee County students being mentored weekly by a volunteer mentor. And upon graduation from high school, each of these students will receive a 4-year college scholarship. And so who are these students? 103 of them are in high school, 13 in middle school. All 113 qualify for free and reduced lunch. 20% of them will be the first ones in their families to graduate from high school. 90% will be the first ones in their families to attend college. And while we've been an independent organization for only a short period of time, we've served the county for 17 years. And throughout that time, we've awarded and mentored 430 students and the scholarship value of well over $3 million. Take Stock in Manatee exemplifies the absolute power of a public-private partnership. Public in that funds allocated from the state are used to fund our operations, and this year we received $107,000, and we're using that money to employ 2 part-time student mentor advocates, 1 college success coach, and a program manager. Private in that all of our mentors are volunteers. We've got a volunteer board of directors and a 25-member volunteer community council. Those 3 groups alone volunteer over 3,000 hours to Take Stock Manatee. Private in that we raised $150,000 last year in private dollars to fund scholarships. Private in that each year we host 2 community-wide events. One is the Leadership Prayer Breakfast in February, and the other is the Take Stock in Children 10K, 5K run in March of each year that pits schools against each other in a friendly competition and brings together 1,000 of our community members. So how do we measure success? We've got any number of metrics, but I'll share 2 with you today. The most important metric is a graduation rate from high school, and we've got a 96% graduation rate. Those students, those 113, 96% of them will graduate from high school. Of those that graduate from high school, 94% will go on to college. So I ask you to please continue to support Take Stock in Children. For every dollar you allocate and appropriate in Tallahassee, rest assured if it makes its way to Manatee County, you're not only changing the lives of our students, but the families and the communities as a whole. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Up next, we have Alexander. There you go. You're recognized, sir.
Thank you. Hello, I'm here to ask you to make medical marijuana a legislative priority during the 2015 legislative session. Medical marijuana has a multitude of benefits that it could bring to Florida, but first let me address the main negative I've seen outlined by opponents: children. On pages 1 through 7, you'll find a study partially funded by the University of Florida that used data from the Youth Risk Behavior Survey from 4 states, namely Montana, Rhode Island, Michigan, and Delaware, over a period of 8 years that wanted to test if medical marijuana laws actually increased adolescent use. Out of 40 planned studies, only on 2 separate and isolated occasions had adolescent marijuana use increased with the enactment of these laws, which was an outcome that the researchers had expected. Researchers concluded that the initial enactment of medical marijuana laws does not cause a measurable increase in adolescent marijuana use. So very quickly on to Charlotte's Web. On page 18, you'll find that FDA approval of medical marijuana as it currently exists is impractical because marijuana, when used for medicinal purposes, is not a single plant variety or strain such as Charlotte's Web. Charlotte's Web was a great legislative achievement for Florida, and you're all to be applauded for that. However, it's not a cure-all to the issue of medical marijuana. You all should view Charlotte's Web as one individual medication or one pill that's in the family of medical marijuana, which contains over 770 different strains that all act as 770 different types of medication. Note how Charlotte's Web is great for treating epilepsy thanks to its large amounts of CBD. Well, it's not so great for treating PTSD. However, marijuana with high concentrations of THC is. On page 27, you'll find a chart citing just how effective THC is for soldiers with PTSD, with most reporting over 75% reduction in all 3 areas of PTSD. Members from this group went from a 98 on the clinician-administered post-traumatic scale to a 54 to 60, which is a significant improvement for those military personnel. Wouldn't it be great if we could provide such an effective treatment for soldiers suffering from PTSD in Florida? And finally, on pages 38 and 39, in Arizona, 6,500 jobs, $315 million of household income, and an overall of $990 million in overall economic activity is expected to be generated from medical marijuana alone, with $36 million per year in added sales tax revenues and $870,000 in payments to the state for dispensary licenses. And as an added benefit, medical dispensaries must act on a not-for-profit basis, which means that for every 1% that their total revenues go over their total expenses, $4.4 million will be generated in charitable contributions. But at the end of the day, whether you agree with me or not, the majority of voters in Manatee County have spoken that we want and we need medical marijuana. Thank you. And I'd love to take any questions if you have any.
Members, any questions? Are you a student here?
Yes.
Where here at USF or?
USF-Sarasota, yes.
Okay. Well, good job on your research and the materials that you presented.
Thank you.
Thanks. Up next, Paul Waldmiller. You're recognized.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Reverend Paul P. Waldmiller. I am a resident of Manatee County. I'm affiliated with Why Dads Matter, a non-for-profit organization that brings awareness to parental alienation. The director, Mr. Gibellina, was unable to attend as he is currently in Washington, D.C. this morning, addressing parental alienation on a federal level as well. That is why I'm here. I want to say this first, if I could. Protection of rights first begins at the local and state level. That is why I'm in front of this delegation today. And so that the delegation is also aware, my credentials include that I am an ordained Christian minister. I am a former internationally credentialed alcoholism and substance abuse counselor. I hold 2 college degrees, one in alcoholism counseling and the other in family counseling. I've been employed in the past as a forensic specialist, training magistrates, attorneys, law enforcement in establishing alternative to incarceration programs, including domestic violence courts. I have a small international ministry, feeding, helping, and rescuing children from human and sex trafficking, mostly in the Philippines. I can tell you from being victimized myself and helping other families through this issue, parental alienation negatively impacts every part of the family. Malachi's Law, which you all have a copy of, or he should have been given a copy of, will restore our constitutional protections for the child who has no voice. But without Malachi's Law, we will see the continuation of children dependent on the custodial parent who systematically engages in the torture and abuse to the child by forcefully removing them from the other loving parent. Children do deserve both parents. Parental alienation is the worst type of child abuse that can happen to our children. Without consequences to this problem, it will quickly escalate to the level of complete alienation to the targeted parent. Malachi's Law will protect the targeted parent from continued abuse by the alienated parent. When our children are disenfranchised from the other parent, several destructive things occur. You can read about what horrible and unnecessary issues occur to children because of parental alienation in our report given to you. As you also read through our proposal, it will become apparent to you that this is a national epidemic and is not just limited to this area alone. It is everywhere, our state, even across our country. Our focus is to make a positive difference in our state of Florida for the children. So that you are aware, I am also an alienated parent, and I'm a victim of a foreign immigration marriage scam and corrupted judges, lawyers, police, domestic violence program workers, and a few others here in the USA. Although I have literally helped rescue thousands and thousands of children and adults around the world, I am not allowed to be with my very own children. My case involves a police officer who threatened to murder me when I was exposed to the illegal alien foreign immigration marriage scammer and the corrupted judges and lawyers.
30 seconds.
Yes, sir. My case may sound extreme, but it is not. I have spoken with hundreds of other mommies and daddies throughout America, including right here in Manatee County, like Glenn Gibellina, whose children suffer parental alienation syndrome, and also, like I, have not seen our children in over 5 years. Time is of the essence. For every day that passes by without Malachi's Law being supported, passed, and fully implemented, millions of children, including many children here in Manatee County, will be continuously exposed to the very harmful effects of PAS. Please support Malachi's Law.
Thank you, and thank you for the information you presented. Any questions?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Up next, we have the Healing Center in Manatee. Andrew Bowman, you're recognized.
Good morning, gentlemen, friends, neighbors. You gentlemen have a unique opportunity presented before you, and you have a unique life experience. You had a youth in Florida when cannabis was rampant on campus. You have gone to college with people who consume cannabis and have gone on to lead productive lives. You also, in your current career status, have made it public that you are for limited regulation, you're pro-business, you are for smaller government. The challenge you face is after this landslide election of having a very motivated conservative base going to the polls and 58% in a voting booth supported medical marijuana and 88% of the general populace voting people in Florida supported medical marijuana, your reaction is going to go back to Tallahassee and structure legislation. I'd counsel you to be very careful on building laws. Laws have an inherent flaw. You tend to regulate a large amount of behavior based on the abhorrent or poor behavior of a small group of people. So you're going to go and try and regulate medical marijuana patients based on potentially, gangbangers or drug users from the streets. I submit to you, first, when you look at these laws, ask yourself, is this law necessary? Sheriff Steube in Manatee County, Sheriff Rutherford from Jacksonville, and the Honorable Kenneth Bell, former Supreme Court Justice, has acknowledged that medical cannabis is now currently legal in the state of Florida in all forms, and Florida citizens with medical necessity have the right to grow, carry, cultivate, and transport medical marijuana, and Florida doctors have the right to prescribe and order the patients use medical marijuana. Please, I didn't see a medical doctorate in front of you guys' name. I do see the fact that you are very active in our community and represent us. Please do not pretend to be doctors. Allow the care of a patient to be something between their doctor and that patient. Allow 893.13.6a to be utilized as it currently is utilized. Do not go up to Tallahassee and just write legislation just to do so. I also submit to you, a year ago, I would not have been standing here. Last January, within a month's period of time, one of my best friends, my brother-in-law, were diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, and my brother was diagnosed with Parkinson's. And that led me to a research to find out a reasonable cure for that. And they were taking all kinds of crazy medicine. Cannabis, if it doesn't cure it, it certainly relieves the pain and suffering of those diseases. Those people can access cannabis in Florida law right now through their friends and family, and potentially grow it themselves. So don't take away that right. I submit to you any legislation should protect the doctor's right to prescribe and the Florida patient's right to cultivate and have access to their own cannabis. And when I got involved in this movement, I had a lot of misconceptions. One is people who use medical cannabis do so differently than your casual user. They do it a lot like coffee. How many of you, when you wake up in the morning, can't function without coffee? Got to have your cup of coffee. Once again, how many of you have drank too much coffee and say, I've had enough, I don't want any more coffee? You get the jitters. Well, that's how people who use cannabis medicate. It's a unique medicine. It's not a 250 milligram oxycodone that your doctor gives every patient, whether they weigh 90 pounds or whether they weigh 300 pounds.
30 seconds.
Once in your system, you can't take it out of your system. Medical marijuana patients medicate on an as-needed basis, whether they smoke it, vape it, consume an edible. It's a very controlled way of applying that medicine. So I submit to you that if you're going to look at legislation or bring regulation upon it, do it through the Department of Agriculture. Representative Steube claims to have a unique knowledge of agriculture. I submit if you're going to regulate it under FS 57451, Department of Agriculture. Agriculture issues concealed carry permits. They could issue Florida medical marijuana cards. They regulate feed, seed, and fertilizer. They could and have laboratories that could quality test. They also have a relationship with the university system that could potentially evaluate and do research on medical cannabis.
All right, thank you, sir.
Any questions?
No questions.
Okay. Also, I have another organization I'm representing. Your staff said this is appropriate for me to do this. I apologize for confusion.
Chair, I did have a comment.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. First was Chairman Steube doesn't claim to have a knowledge of agriculture. He does.
If you go read his biography.
No, I'm saying he does.
Oh, I apologize.
But the other thing is,
he's got a truck.
He's got a truck.
And a four-year degree from the College of Agriculture at the University of Florida.
And a hat and a blue jacket. There's a lot of talk here this morning about marijuana. Was this like the 5th presentation? Not to disappoint, but I don't foresee us clamoring to do much with this issue one way or another.
Thank you.
So that's just little insights into at least where I think the Senate will be this year.
Thank you. Because there's already laws on the books that allow it, so please don't ruin a good thing. Okay?
Okay,
Next
so,
issue.
So you're saying you have, because I don't have you on my agenda as another.
And that was an error. I handed 2 packets to your staff. And
okay, so what's the second issue?
The second is representing agricultural alternatives, which is the other side of the coin, which is industrial, agricultural, hemp, and that.
Okay, well, you've been up for 6 minutes, so I've been kind of. So okay. I'll give you 1 minute to talk about
comparing cannabis and in the drug to agricultural hemp is like comparing orange juice to lemon juice. They might be citrus trees, but one you consume for one reason, the other is a flavor. Please remove all restrictions on industrial hemp. We in a 3-day period collected signatures from farmers in Manatee County that want to plant 10,000 acres. Research tells us that a farmer can harvest $250 per acre, and in Florida we can do that twice a year. That's $500 per acre times 10,000. That's $5 million per acre of people who want to plant right now. That would be huge for our economy. This stuff doesn't get you high. We need this. Citrus greening's killing us. Foreign competition's killing us. So Florida farmers really do need your help on this issue.
Okay, thank you, sir. All right, up next, Ross Camp Institute, Mr. Humphrey. How are you doing? You're recognized.
Well, good morning. The Ross Camp Institute is a not-for-profit 501c3. public charity. The mission of the Institute is to conduct scientific research to discover safe and effective new drugs and therapies to treat diseases of the mind and promote healthy aging. The Institute's been in the state of Florida for 20 years. Since 2003, its present location in Manatee County. During that time, we've grown from a staff of 10 to over 60. The founders of the Institute discovered the first genetic mutations in Alzheimer's disease, and we've taken that further and actually developed a drug that's in phase 3 clinical trials for Alzheimer's disease. Now, as you've seen in the media recently and in your packets, we've made another key discovery in Alzheimer's disease, a molecule that regulates the 3 main pathologies of Alzheimer's disease. Following this roadmap in Alzheimer's research, we have identified 3 key research programs that affect veterans directly. Specifically, traumatic brain injury, Gulf War illness, and post-traumatic stress disorder. There's 1,583,000 veterans living in the state of Florida. In the 1990-91 Gulf War, 700,000 troops were deployed. Of these, 45,797 of these vets live in the state of Florida. Of these, 25 to 30% of those veterans were exposed to Gulf War illness. In traumatic brain injuries, the Veterans Administration indicates there's over 200,000 veterans that have experienced TBI. Of those, 14,000 veterans are living in Florida. Veterans advocates estimate that 10 and 20% of Iraq veterans, or 150 to 300,000 service members, have undiagnosed TBI. The number of veterans on the disability rolls for post-traumatic stress disorder has quadrupled since 2000. Last week, the Institute held our open annual day for veterans, which included workshops, TBI, PTSD, and Gulf War illness. It gave the opportunities for veterans to meet with clinicians and researchers. The overwhelming feedback is it's the first time that some of these veterans actually had a positive message, there is hope on the horizon. All our work is published in peer-reviewed journals and presented at international meetings. Our clinic sees over 4,800 patients a year with an increased number of veterans. Some of these veterans come from as far afield as Jacksonville and Miami.
30 seconds.
The Ross Camp Institute is a unique situation partnered with the state-of-the-art research facility. We can get samples from the clinic into the labs within 2 minutes, and this ensures that scientists get the best samples, our patients have access to the latest knowledge of the conditions, and have access to treatments as we advance them to clinical tests. Given these statistics I've shared with you, I ask you to support the Ross Camp Institute's mission and support our veterans.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it. Any questions? All right, thank you very much. Up next, Americans for Prosperity, Tom Grimm. You're recognized.
Good morning, gentlemen. I've had the pleasure of meeting 2 of you. Representative Boyd, I've never had that pleasure, but I lived up in Ruskin, Hillsborough County. When Representative Steube first ran, I remember he came up and campaigned, and he did a good job for us, even though, I guess 90% of his district was in Manatee. He continued to look out for our interests. Senator Galvano now is Representative Steube is no longer my representative, but
it's okay.
Didn't do that good a job, did
he got replaced by a much better looking representative.
There you go.
Senator Galvano, we appreciate that you're now our representative and appreciate your hearing some of us the other day. So I said, my name is Tom Grimm. I am not the person who was originally going to speak to you, though it's somebody I think you all know, Miss Alicia Evans, and I'm sure with her enthusiasm and passion, she would have made a very different presentation than I am. As I said, and Representative Rouson, who left, he once had parts of Ruskin in his district also. So we have a good connection with all of you. One of my part-time retirement jobs, I have 3 or 4, is teaching political science at HCC South Shore. And I was most impressed not only with Alex's, is it Alex? Is that correct? Performance today, and I think I don't know, I got here about 10 minutes late where anybody acknowledged that there are 4 students, political science, USF here, and I think it's great they're showing that interest. Hope they get extra credit. The thing about Alex that I really liked is when I went outside to take a break, use my cell phone, of course, he was speaking to Representative Rouson. And Professor, he sounded like a professor. Representative Rouson really got into him. And I listened to what he said. But at the end he said, I want to thank you for having the courage to come out here. I don't think he said beard me, but he did say to speak. And I, too, like to congratulate him because I think that's what we need, young people who get involved in this process. And I try to do that when I teach. I know we only have 3 minutes, and I probably used a minute up already.
2 minutes and a half, actually.
Oh, okay.
You got 30 seconds.
Do I have just 30?
You have 30.
Okay.
Now you have 28.
You know the 5 for Florida talking points, and they ask you, of course, to sign the pledge. And thank you for your past support of their issues. The key ones are reform taxes, yes. Public pensions have to be addressed. Stand firm in your rejection of Medicaid expansion. Be transparent, help parents and children with education, and small entrepreneurs. Thank you, and again, Americans for Prosperity asks you to sign their endorsement. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Good to see you all.
Thanks for coming. All right, up next, Moat Marine Laboratory. I don't see Dr. Crosby, but I see our good old Kumar. Okay. Kumar, you are recognized.
Good morning, and thank you very much for everything you have done over the last 35 years. The state of Florida has been a great partner for Moat Marine Lab. And talking about public-private partnership, it's very appropriate. We have the meeting here because we have a great partnership with the USF, which is listed there. But I'm here mainly to thank and let Kelly Dowd say what our priorities for this year are. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Doc.
Thank you. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name's Kelly Dowd. I am here on behalf of David Shep, who sends his regrets, and he plans to follow up with each of you personally to go over the legislative priorities that I'm going to briefly present to you, as I know you're quite familiar with our organization. First, I'd like to draw your attention to the continued support of funding for red tie technology development, monitoring, and outreach. We encourage you to maintain the same level of funding that we received in the 2013 and 2014 session. This was a joint collaboration between Moat and Fish and Wildlife Research Institute. With the resurgence of red tide, it's extremely important that we restore the beach conditions reporting system, which serves as public outreach for human health, recreation, commercial fishing, and tourism in the wake of red tide outbreaks. That would also continue to expand innovation in robotics, sensor development, and of course, most importantly, treatment methods. Secondly, we encourage you to support the growth of the Moat Marine and USF-Sarasota Manatee STEM partnership. I know that was mentioned earlier this morning. I did miss that presentation, but we kicked off our second year of classes in August. It's been quite a success, and we encourage you to support the full funding to develop and grow the program. So please support our funding as well as USF-Sarasota Manatee. Also, we encourage you to support the funding of the statewide marine hatchery network through the Florida Fish and Wildlife Institution, specifically the Florida Marine Fisheries Enhancement Initiative concept, which is a collaboration between Moat, FAU, FIT, FWC, and FOS, a lot of acronyms, to enhance the sport fish species on the east and west coast of Florida. Specifically, they will begin with studying redfish, and then they'll get into other species of the sport fish. And finally, this is just so you're aware, we will be speaking to the Monroe delegation as well as Miami-Dade. We encourage you to support the coral reef and ecosystem restoration and research. We do have a campus on Summerlin Key, as I'm sure you are aware, and we have seen a reduction in coral reefs over the years, and that is a huge economic draw to the area. So we are working with parties down there to restore them as quickly as possible, and we ask for your help in that funding. Thank you.
Very much. Any questions? All right, thank you very much. All right, up next we have Linda Neely, and I have you down for 3 different subjects. So I'll give you, what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you 6 minutes because I'm such a nice guy. And because we've got 25 minutes left and we have to end at noon.
So the additional time that was given to the previous speakers impacts us, the citizens, once again.
I've been keeping count, so
I have kept
you're
count.
recognized for
There were
your
33 corporations and entities that represent themselves along with the governing, and there were only 6 people, and one recused himself from speaking, Dr. Connard. And I will accept that, but I will protest it because I did the appropriate steps. I got on the agenda. I will forgive my personal speech, and I do not believe that it is fair or right, sir.
Okay, you've already blown 30 seconds, so your first issue is Tea Party Manatee, so you're recognized to discuss that.
Yes, I am representing Tea Party Manatee, a group of citizens that receives no funding whatsoever from any government agency nor grants from anyone. We are for the Constitution of both the state of Florida and the United States of America. We are for fiscal responsibility, limited government, free markets, God, and the people that are actually the body of the United States of America, not the governing powers. The Constitution of the state of Florida states that first and foremost, the people are the true political power, that the states are combined with the United States governing to do the things that the people cannot do, nor that the individual states could do. And yet they were empowered by the Constitution with limitations upon their power. The states have abdicated in many areas, and education is one of them. I will now leave that section and I will move on to on U.S. education. Again, a group of citizens that are all parents. They receive no funding from grants from government bodies. They wish to see that their children are educated, not schooled, that they are not accessed by corporations as commodities, that we want home rule as stated in our Constitution, that the parents, the Supreme Court, have many times stated that the parents are the first and foremost directors of their children's education. Yet when the No Child Left Behind law stated that this year, 2014-15 school year, every child in America would be on grade level, which definitely was an impossible task for any educational capacity because they were failing miserably. The executive branch of the United States offered out his Common Core that was not only taking the bait by our representatives, but you swallowed the pole along with it. You handed over our education of our children to a common standard that is nowhere near being common. We have parents who are being told they cannot help their children with their homework because they don't know what to do with it. We are not only educated through the system of schooling that we went through, we have life experience that you all are representatives who are under Article 1, Section 5 of the Constitution of the state of Florida, under peacefully assembly of the people, that we have the right to assemble, that we have the right to lecture our representatives, and that if you do not listen to our lecture, it is inferred that we have the right to seek redress, therefore, from that. We have, as a body across the entire nation, have been pushing back against the control by the federal government of the education of our children, removing the layers of our ability as parents. These children are half my DNA and half of their father's DNAs. They are products of their parents. The parents send them to school, walking, talking, motor skills, knowing their ABCs. the good parents, the parents that take their free time and utilize it to be the educators to their children, are now being told, you cannot educate your child because you don't understand the scores. I personally took a week and a half of my life and devoted it to writing to the Commissioner of Education of the state of Florida on the standards for the 3rd grade, the 8th grade, and the 10th grade. And I wrote 39 pages of very well reasoned, and I reached out to the universities for explanations and help in getting my reasoning. And you know what happened with that? Went to a paid corporation to condense my thoughts to give to you all about how I felt about those standards. So you know what? You never heard me then, and today you're not really getting to hear me either. I wish at some point, yes, Representative Steube, you were very generous and you met me in your office, but you still never brought forth any legislation to stop the train wreck that is known as Common Core in our state. And I just hope you have the will, because you have the power. You, our elected representatives, have our power on loan to stop this. We just need to find out if you have the will to do that. Thank you for being here today.
Thank you very much. Representative Boyd, you're recognized.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and I'll just be very brief. I don't know that I would agree with your assessment of us, Ms. Neely. Our legislature, I think, has done everything we can since we've been there to give parents more choice, families more options, and kids more availability for education. So we're not perfect by any stretch, and we still have work to do. But I think we've done a lot over the past, at least the 4 years that we've been there, and Senator Galvano's been in that mode longer than we have. But I think we've done a lot. We still have work to do. I would acknowledge that, but I don't think we have failed you miserably, as it sounded like you indicated.
Up next, we have concerned parents and teachers of Manatee County. Christine, is it Skett? You're recognized.
Thank you all for having us here and for listening to a collective group of residents and voters and teachers. We tried our best to put enough data together in the limited amount of time that we had. And basically, if you look through the data, you can see all the changes that our school district, and we only looked at elementary school and just the traditional schools, but all of the changes that have occurred, some state mandated, some district guided, but the purpose was to keep up with the state mandates. And I think everything was Florida, the state of Florida approved. So we are asking that because things keep changing and this, the FLDOE keeps readjusting what needs to be done, that the punitive damages to the new mandates and the testing that come to our teachers, our students, my children, schools, and ultimately to our communities be halted for now. And that would be the grading system, the retention based on the testing alone, and the assessments that are on our classrooms and teachers. I am not a teacher, I'm a parent. But the system hasn't been worked out. There's a lot of kinks, and it's about 3 to 5 years worth of implementation shoved into a 1-year period. Obviously, our package isn't complete, but we've tried to give you as much as we can in that short time. I have 2 children in local charter schools here. I have a daughter who graduated from Brain River High School, and she also attended virtual classes. She's now at UCF. She's doing very well. But I'm speaking on behalf of the entire community, traditional education from our local schools to our charter schools to the homeschool parents that we have, because in our private school parents make up our collective group. And, you know, our children face retention. It's the same in a charter school as it is in a traditional public school. Our community members are concerned about what the grades will do to our community. I mean, if we look like we have failing schools, yet we have amazing, right now we have a group of students in Abu Dhabi, with the slipstream. I mean, those are amazing kids. And I took a team to Worlds for Odyssey of the Mind, yet those aren't the things that Manatee County is highlighted for. People look at our scores only. We have very smart, creative students, and they got that way from their parents and their teachers, and the schools and the programs that were offered. Many of those programs are being cut, and funding is coming from outside sources, or some schools just can't afford to do it anymore. Teachers aren't being given the additional funding, so we're trying to get as many parents as we can to stand up and to add those extras that make Manatee County schools really excellent. It's not the school grade. We're not opposed to accountability in any tax-funded education. We are opposed to the over-reliance on the standardized tests, especially in untried and unproven tests that we're going to be seeing this year. We are opposed to a one-size-fits-all approach. We are opposed to the push for digital learning, despite the data and research that advises children no more than 2 hours of screen time a day. And there are parents like myself who do adhere to that.
30 seconds.
Okay. The final thing is, last night my son came home. He has a rare neurological disorder, and learning can be hard in certain areas with timing, despite his being gifted. He was crying because he has an EOC in his music class that he loves. He can read music, he can write music. However, his EOC will be videoed and based on his performance, his ability to perform music. He wants to quit music. That is what he came home last night and said, because he is in the second quarter and has that option to do so. We send him to an art school for his love of music. He's very smart. And I hate to see this love that he has wasted because of an EOC. Kindergartners are taking EOCs in every single subject that they get. At Rowlett, they take Spanish. They will be given an EOC in Spanish. I ask that our whole system be looked at and what we're doing to our children. I realize that there's a lot of problems, but you are all the solution to these problems. Thank you.
Thank you. And if you want to follow up with, I'd be happy to meet with you. I know we don't have a lot of time today, but a number of people that are here also come and set up meetings to meet with us individually. So if it's issues that you want to, because I've read some of this letter, if issues that you want to discuss specifically, I'd be happy to meet with you, and I'm sure any of the representatives of senators would be. So thank you very much.
Please, thank you very much.
Up next, David Miner.
Thank you, Chairman Steube. Representative Boyd. Yeah, Dave Watchdog Miner, that's how the governor gave my commission. And Senator Galvado, I'm going to just take a couple moments to talk about a handout I gave this morning. I'll give to the media. I think you're aware that once a month I go to Orlando and I represent this school district in the Central Florida Public School Board Coalition, which represents the students and the families of 900,000 people here in Central Florida. And the resolution that this coalition had, and I'm not going to read it all, you all have it, but basically it comes down to it is essential that the Florida Department of Education collects Florida Standard Assessment data for 3 years prior to setting standards for calculating learning gains, issuing any form of school grades, and impacting teacher performance. What you could do to help achieve that, to get the assessment correct when we have assessment, would be something in the interest of these 900,000 families. What initially prompted my being with you today was a letter from Lake Ray, chairman of the Joint Legislative Auditing Committee, to me, eliciting my thoughts as to what districts across the state of Florida could do to avoid the financial disaster that impacted the school district of Manatee County during the last couple of years. It was a very incisive inquiry, very important, and how can we do that? My response to him is in the packet I provided to a letter. It came down to asking not for more money, but for 22 words in a statute. This is regarding, Chapter 1001, as you know, in the governance of K through 20. And my 22 words themselves were prompted by my finding out something about school boards that I didn't know, even though for many years I had been attending and watching the school board. I did not know that no school board member, had authority to have administrative or clerical assistance to instruct that in carrying out the duties of being a school board member.
30 seconds.
This amendment, the 22 words, would make it very clear that school board members, the school board as a whole may, not required, have administrative and clerical assistance under their instruction. They need that to avoid this kind of disaster. Otherwise, any information is solely at the discretion of the superintendent, who might be hiding information that brings about the financial disaster that Manatee County suffered. Let's not do it again. These 22 words that I gave to you that makes it clear that boards can have that would help avoid that. Pretty simple, pretty cheap, pretty effective, very necessary.
All right, thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Up next, South Florida Museum and Bishop Planetarium. Welcome, you're recognized.
Good morning. Thank you all for allowing this opportunity. And my name is Bryn Ann Basayo, and I'm the CEO of the South Florida Museum, Bishop Planetarium. We're downtown Bradenton, been their anchor institution for 67 years, and we're looking to the next 67 years. We're excited about that. We have an amazing set of resources from which we educate. And with these resources, we have a natural, cultural, and local history ability to teach. We have the region's largest planetarium. We are home to the oldest known manatee, of course, Snooty. We're also a leader in the Manatee Rescue and Rehabilitation Partnership. And with all of these assets, we are able to address Florida standards for science and social studies for K through 12 students. Right now, the Manatee County School District has recognized our value, and we have every fourth grader in Manatee County coming to study earth and space science. And we're pleased to tell you that we are paying for that through a grant from a private donor from the admissions side and the Manatee Education Foundation from the transportation side. So we're thrilled about that opportunity this year. But we're more than just Manatee County. We are a regional museum. And we serve 10 counties worth of students. They come from all over, just because we're the only natural and cultural history museum on the Gulf Coast. So we're serving over 12,000 just students alone in field trips over the year. We're also a proud partner with USF-Sarasota Manatee, New College of Florida, Ringling College of Art and Design, and others to create courses for undergraduates and co-teach them, and to provide customized internship opportunities. For example, we're in the second semester of a teaching elementary science course with USF in conjunction with their Partnership for Arts Integrated Teaching. This integrates teaching strategies with science content using the museum's collections and exhibitions as a primary resource. As Manatee County and our region continues to grow and change, the museum is doing the same. We have some exciting new projects on the horizon, which we'd love to share more with you. And I invite you and your staff members to join us at the museum so you experience our programs, hear our exciting new initiatives at your convenience. On January 27th, we are holding an event for public officials in the area, and we'd love to see you there. Thank you for your support of the South Florida Museum, also the state's support for Division of Cultural Affairs, and your service to our community.
Thank you. 10 seconds.
I'd like to make it real clear, it's on the program. I was speaking as an individual, not
No,
as a
it's clear
representative.
on the
I know
program.
on the program, but on the TV, I don't know if it shows that. I was speaking as an individual and not as vice chair or a representative of the school board. Thank
We've
you.
got it down. Thank
Okay,
you.
Thank you.
All right, up next, Pace Center for Girls, Amy.
Of course, the name
Thank you so
Welcome.
much, and I want to thank you all for taking the time that you've taken with our girls when we were in Tallahassee in March, and we hope to see you all again next year. I thank you for the support that you've given to PACE. I'm excited to say that Clay County will be opening the PACE Center for Girls in January of next year, so that's really exciting news for us. So thank you for your continued support. I do want to share a little bit of information about our girls here. We did some data collection over last year, and I wanted to share the results of the girls that we served, the 104 girls we served at PACE Center for Girls last year, and it's pretty important. We do know in the state of Florida last year over 170,000 70,000 girls dropped out of school. And that's a big number. And what you are doing in supporting PACE helps to change that. 78% of the girls we served last year here in Manatee County have been suspended from school, and 45% are 2 or more years behind. And research does support that children who are held back twice have a 90% chance of dropping out of school. These are significant numbers when we're looking at the economic implications for our girls in the future. 43% of the girls that we serve at PACE test on the elementary school level for reading. And just to remind you, we don't serve elementary age girls at PACE. And 32% have been identified for needing ESE services. Coupled with the education services, as you all know, are the risk factors that our girls have. 87% of the girls we served last year have 3 or more risk factors. We're going into the millennium. We talked about that, the generation X and Y and Z, if we can keep track of all of that. This is a generation that doesn't know a life before 9/11. Doesn't know a life without Columbine, and certainly doesn't understand that violence is not necessarily a way of life. This is the way our girls have been living their lives. 76% of our girls live at the poverty level. 39% have a parent or a sibling in jail, and 40% have moved 3 or more times in the last 5 years. So these are the real girls in our community who we are serving at PACE with enormous outcomes in regards to them completing their education as well as not reoffending. Finally, I'd like to point out that Manatee County ranks 9th in the state of Florida for teenage pregnancies. This is not like your golf game. You do not want that score to be low. We would rather be much higher. And if we limit our academic abilities and our future for our girls, we know that they are going to become teen mothers and perpetuate that cycle of poverty. So we thank you for your continued support and your investment in the future of our PACE girls. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, there's 2 late additions that aren't on the agenda that was set out. Josie Rocco. You're recognized. You've got 3 minutes.
Thank you. My name is Josie Rocco, and I'm with the Prodigy program that is funded through the Department of Juvenile Justice, and it's a prevention program with the University Area Community Development Corporation located in Tampa. Prodigy provides at-risk youth ages 7 to 17 free after-school cultural and performing arts classes, along with teaching a variety of art classes that include dance, music production, urban art, and drumming. Each class also provides a life skill activity. Prodigy programs were provided in 6 counties last fiscal year: Hillsborough, Pinellas, Pasco, Polk, Orange, and Sarasota. We are currently looking for a partner in Manatee as well. UACDC had a partnership in Sarasota County last fiscal year, and that organization served 100 at-risk youth. At this time, we are looking for a new partnering organization in Sarasota County to continue these services. Prodigy is a research-based program. The research discloses that Prodigy youth show improvement in the ability to control behavior, effective responsiveness, and academic self-efficacy. Significant decrease in anger, depression, anxiety, suicidal thoughts, and somatic problems. They also reduce risky behaviors and mental health symptoms. On behalf of UACDC, I would like to thank you for past support and request continued support in providing the Prodigy program to at-risk youth in Sarasota and Manatee counties. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yep, Representative Boyd, you're recognized.
Just quickly, I guess I got you're looking for someone in Manatee County. You were at Reverend Golden's church, I believe, in Bradenton before. Is that not there any longer?
No, it is not there any longer.
Thank you.
No. Okay.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
All right, our last winner of today, Ryan Suarez. You're recognized.
Good morning. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to speak to you. I'm sorry for being late here on the agenda. I didn't know I was going to have a chance to be here, except I found out yesterday I had a work engagement that was canceled this morning, so thank you very much. I want to talk to you about an FRS issue that affects me and thousands of other folks across the state. Several months ago, I did send a letter to each person on this delegation concerning the same issue, but thank you again for this opportunity to be able to relay that message in person to you. Per the new FRS rules adopted in 2010, former FRS employees, such as myself, who took a distribution from their FRS account, including those that elected to roll over their benefits into an IRA or some other private retirement account, are considered retired and are no longer eligible to renew into the FRS program. I worked in Indian River County, left the county in 2005, rolled over my benefits in 2006. The rules changed in 2010, and when I began employment here in Manatee County, which was about 5 months ago, come to find out I'm not eligible to enter into the FRS. I worked the private sector about 9 years before coming back into public sector employee. The reasoning, as I understand it, behind the legislation was to prevent double dipping. Folks that earned benefits, spent 30 years in the public sector, were going back into the FRS program, earning another set of benefits, thereby earning 2 sets of retirement. 2 unintended consequences, and I'll make these brief. One personal, of course related to me, and one broader in its perspective and more inclusive of all the folks that are affected. I'm 38 years old. Per the definitions of the FRS, I can work for 30 years for state, local government, not earn any type of retirement benefits through those employers. I have 2 children, etc., small family. I'm far from sailing off into the sunset per what 100% I think of folks consider as retired. 2, again, I want to mention, more importantly, public sector employers are limited in their ability to recruit and retain qualified staff. And this is key and this is important because I was lured back to the public sector because of the benefits that are associated with it. In addition to that, I really enjoy working in Manatee County. I want to stay in Manatee County. I wouldn't be up here making this case. I could easily get up and move to another state. But I do appreciate the leadership that's here and the leadership that I work for, and I want to continue to do so. I don't know what the changes need to be, changing the retirement definition. Can people like myself buy back? I leave that up to the experts. But again, if the rules don't change, again, we're less competitive in this global economy. People are more mobile. So I leave you with that. Thank you very much again.
Representative Boyd has a question for you.
Actually, just a statement, and thank you for your letter. I did get a letter from you, I believe, a month or so ago. I was actually the House sponsor of the pension bill this year, and there was a provision based on a circumstance just like yours that we tried to correct that for those that really not dropped, and you know that as you referred to earlier, the double dipping concept. But this was for those that when they left, their pensions were frozen, and then they wanted to come back to the state sector. There was a provision in our bill to allow certain levels of that to occur. So we tried to, I think, fix the problem that you experience or that you're experiencing yourself. Unfortunately, on other issues, we had some differences with our friends across the hall, and I don't know this year what we'll be able to do to try to revisit those, but I sense that there's at least some appetite for revisiting on some basis the pension issue, and if that does elevate up this year, I know that specific issue will be one we'll address again.
Sure,
there was interest in the House on that. I don't think it ever got, unfortunately on our part, I don't think it ever got to our friends in the Senate to look at that component, but it will be an issue that we'll address if we take it back up.
Well, I do appreciate it, and I'm sure thousands of other folks who are affected by this renewals policy specifically do appreciate your efforts. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Closing comments. Anybody have any closing comments?
No, just thank you for all the presentations today. We have staff here. I'd like to recognize my staff director, Kathy Galia, L.A. Whitney Deem. And so if it looked like we were getting a lot of information, not taking a lot of notes, these poor people were over here taking copious notes, and so we'll certainly revisit all the issues. We have the packet and make some decisions going forward. And Chairman, thank you. Look forward to working with you in the committee weeks and session. And same with you, Representative Boyd. It's going to be a pleasure. And I'll see you all Tuesday in Tallahassee.
Any closing comments?
Yeah, just briefly, just echo the Senator's comments. Thank you all for being here. I know you take a day out of your schedule to be here, so we appreciate it. My legislative aide / staff director is one person. That's Ben Smith right there. And our office is always open as well. If you have questions, concerns, ideas, thoughts, please call us, and that's what we're there for. And I want to compliment these students as well for being here today. Thank you all for being here and for your attention and for your presentation as well. It's very, very thorough and very good. Thank you. Thank you,
All right.
Mr. Chair.
Thank you, yes. And I'd like to thank my staff who put all these fancy binders together for us. Annalie Morris and Devin Barretto, thank them. And with that, we are adjourned.
Thanks, sir.